And welcome everybody to another episode of the Pulse of Fins Nation. I am your host, Louis Sung, and joining me today is my good friend and co-host Ron Caniff, and of course Alfredo Artiaga of the 3 yards per carry. I specifically requested him because he's going to have to break down everything that happened for us this past week against the Lions. And of course, the trade deadline has now come and gone, and the Miami Dolphins did not disappoint, in spite of the fact that a lot of people were afraid that they were going to disappoint. We're going to get into all of that, and before we get too far into my just random rambling, let me go ahead and just mention, of course, our friends and sponsors over at prizepicks.com. They are the revolutionary fantasy platform where you can pick up to 2, 3, 4, or even 5 different players across different leagues. So you can choose somebody from the MLB, you can choose somebody from the NBA, you can choose somebody from the NFL. And by the way, there it is right there, the promo code 5, that is FIVE. All you have to do is go to prizepicks.com and use that promo code, and they will match up to $100 on your initial deposit. You don't need any rollovers. You just do it the first time and boom, they give it to you. Whatever you put into it, they are going to match it up to a whopping $100, free $100 for you to play with. Just here's a quick tip for you. Always just pick the over on Tyreek Hill's receptions. You're going to win that every single week as long as he does not get hurt. I promise you that. I guarantee you that. So once again, use the promo code 5. That's FIVE. They will match up to $100 on your initial deposit, and you can end up winning big time. Which, by the way, I almost won big time last week, except Raheem Mostert ended up getting 5 yards less than I needed because they went into victory formation too soon. And so I'm a little peeved about that.
Yeah, the best thing about that Price Picks promo, remember it's FIVE, is that if you deposit $100, they give you $100, and it's not one of these ridiculous things where you have to roll it over 1,000 times to get the $100. No, you bet it through once and you get the $100. There's no better deal anywhere. There's no better promo anywhere. Just do it. It's a free $100. There's no reason why we shouldn't have millions of people signing up under FIVE.
There's a reason you wear that hat every single week, right?
Yes. They're a very, very good sponsor of ours. Yes. For a very long time.
Alrighty. And speaking of fashion, Mr. Caniff, you wearing the victory shades again?
Always. I always wear the shades no matter what. I got the victory hat too.
Okay, you got the victory hat on. Which, by the way, there is another victory, and oh my gosh, the defense didn't look all that promising, but we kind of expected that. The Lions are a legitimate offense, but the Miami Dolphins offense, this is what we were hoping for. This is what we were finally hoping to see. The Miami Dolphins offense firing on all cylinders all the way through the game. There was not really a moment where throughout a quarter or maybe like 2 possessions that the offense wasn't just humming right along. Yeah, they got stops once. I think they punted once all game. And so, but if that's all you do throughout an entire 60-minute football game, I'd say that was a pretty good offensive showing.
Yeah. I mean, this is what we knew we could see. This is what we knew Tua could do. It's what we've been saying Tua could do. And it's like so many times you think you're putting something together. You think you got the right coach, the right quarterback, the right scheme, the right players. And how many times does it not work out? Well, this is one of those situations where it's working out maybe even better than we thought, right? It's just been, this is the first time I've felt this from the offense. Like this last game, sometimes it would be 3rd and 13, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 8. And never before, every time it was 3rd and 8, 9, 10 more in the past 20 years, I was like, well, just get some yards and punt. That's just was my mentality. Now I just sit back thinking, oh, 3rd and 13. Yeah, they'll probably pick it up. And they do. Like most times they do. It's crazy. It allows them to take some chances on 1st and 2nd down when they know they have that sort of reliability that they can go in and call in, dial up the right play. The receiver's going to do what they're supposed to do. Tua's going to make the throw he's supposed to make. The read he's supposed to make. It's been amazing to watch. And I'm just looking forward to seeing it continue to develop.
And now, Aaron, I want to go ahead and get into some of our comments because, again, this show is about you all. Aaron Anders asked, is his performance versus the Lions tops the Ravens game? Okay, so me personally.
That's a great question.
So for me, it does not. And the reason why it does not top the Ravens game is because while, yes, it was impressive that he was able to hum along the entire game through, it was against the Detroit Lions defense, which is putrid this season. That's number one. And number two is that what he had to do against the Ravens, he only had 1 quarter to get that job done. 1 quarter to score that many points and actually managed to come out on top against a team, by the way, that has historically beaten the ever-living crap out of the Miami Dolphins for the past God only knows how many seasons at this point. So for me, the Ravens game is still Tua's best, most impressive performance, but the Lions game was definitely his most consistent performance.
Yeah. Also, too, when the Ravens game was on, the offense didn't know what they could do or what they could be yet. I mean, that was what? Was that week 2? Right?
That was week 2 against the
Baltimore
Ravens was week 2.
Not only did we not know, they didn't know yet. Like Tua didn't know, and they believed in themselves, but they hadn't done it yet. So they hadn't watched themselves be able. Now it's a different story. Now they know what they can do, and then this Lions game tells them even more what they can do. I mean, when Tua starts and finishes the game, they're 5-0. I mean, it's crazy, but the confidence will continue to grow in what they can do, and McDaniel will be able to continue to dial up plays. He'll just continue to get better and better at dialing up the right play as he understands more and more what this team and what this offense can do. And we're just going to continue to expand things and add some plays to the game plan, etc. It's exciting to watch, and it's not even close to a finished product, which is what's the crazy part about it. It's not like we're watching Drew Brees 3 years in. I mean, we're watching an offense that, to me, I think is going to be a really good offense for several years to come. We're just watching it in its infancy, right? You know what I mean? It's just beginning.
Alf, do you agree that do you think that this tops the Ravens game? Or I know that you probably talked about it probably on the 3 yards per carry podcast, which, by the way, if you guys have not tuned in yet, I believe there is a brand new trade deadline special out for everybody to tune into. So, but I'll go ahead and ask you, does this game against the Lions top his Ravens performance?
No, it doesn't top it because the Ravens performance, and I don't think we're giving it enough pub, I would say, and enough love. That Ravens performance is legendary, historic. Like, we'll talk about that one for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. When he retires and he's in the Hall of Fame, when Tua's at the podium and he's accepting the yellow jacket, somebody's going to say, do you remember that game against the Ravens early in his career when he threw the 6 touchdown pass and they came from behind 21 points against Hall of Famer Lamar Jackson? So no, that's historic, and that's something that will live forever. Like, you'll remember that forever. What he did against Detroit, it's something that, look, I just looked it up right now and I have it right here so I could check it out. I talked about it on the podcast. I thought that it was like 9 times that Aaron Rodgers had a game similar to that game against Detroit. Detroit is just a game that if Tua has the career that we think he's going to have another 10 to 12 games like that game he had against Detroit. Because I'm looking at right here, games with near perfect passer rating with no interceptions and multiple touchdown passes. I have for Aaron Rodgers, all right, and with 300 yards, okay? Because, yeah, by the way, he has some games that are absolutely ridiculous. He has a 480-yard game with 4 touchdown passes and no picks with a 146 passer rating, okay? That was against Washington in 2015. But if you look at how many he's had in his career, and I'm looking at it right here, it's 1, it's 2, 3, 4. Are you getting the drift of this? 5, 6, 7. I'll give him the 312-yard game. 8. That's Aaron Rodgers, one of the greatest passers in the history of the sport. He had 8 games in his career so far that equal that game that Tua had against Detroit. Is that something? I think it is.
And for somebody who's pretty much a first ballot Hall of Famer the moment he retires, that's pretty impressive company to be in. Like, and by the way, it should be noted that you don't get Tyreek Hill close to being the first 2,000-yard receiver ever without having to be able to credit the quarterback. I'm sorry. Whoever, I don't know have we heard from Keyshawn Johnson lately? Has he had to eat crow yet regarding his Tua
but
comments?
Those people, you don't understand. Those people are just going to fade out into the ether. Nobody's going to hear from them again. They're not going to mention it again. Look, Colin Cowherd already he showed the way. Okay, Colin Cowherd already did a show this week where he says, "Oh, we could have easily predicted all of this." But
no, did he now?
Yeah, but we know how
Then
it's
why
going
didn't
to
you?
end. But we know how it's going to end, because they're going to have to put away those surfboards when they go to Buffalo. So basically, he's saying, okay, now you got to go do it in 7-degree weather, and you got to go win the Super Bowl, and you got to be league MVP, and you got to be Super Bowl MVP, and then you got to beat the Eagles, or you got to beat the 85 Bears 75-0. So the goalposts are going to keep moving. You just go win a Super Bowl and then extend both middle fingers up in the air right at Colin Cowherd.
Speaking of extending, Ron, I know
What's
you
up?
saw. I saw your. You saw my face. What is flying across your screen, man?
I got some incense burning over.
Okay, I was gonna
here.
say it's like,
Here.
oh my god, like it's Halloween is over. What's with the specter floating through your room?
I just got incense burning, so
Okay.
that's what. And I saw a big like cloud of smoke go by,
And
then I saw Lewis's eyes light up. Like, what is happening?
Oh god, this show. Oh my god, like we're only 11
Got to
minutes.
keep
in.
people on their toes.
This almost tops Simon doing the CK impression. Almost, but anyway.
By the way, you guys were wondering about Tom Brady?
Oh yeah, actually, there was a comment that I wanted to highlight. Let me just go ahead and pull that up right now because
He has quite a few of them. I have them right here. I'm going to give him that 423-yard game with 3 touchdowns. Okay, I'm going to give him that one too. And like Brady has a lot of them. Okay, we're talking about
extremely proficient passer over the years.
Yeah, we got games. We're talking about games where he has a plus 130 passer rating, although Tua's is better. Okay, Tua's is actually perfect. Okay, but we're not going to go perfect. We're going to go games that are similar game score, which is 3 touchdown passes or better, 130 or better. I'm not going to give him the 3 or 4, but it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That one doesn't count. He has a pick there. That one neither. 8, 9, 10. This is Tom Brady, by the way. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Tom Brady has 15 games in his career. It's a 20-year career that are similar to the game that Tua just had against Detroit.
And by the way, he may never have one again. As per the comment that was last in the last video, which by the way, once again, if you really want to make sure that you guaranteed a highlight, you go ahead and you leave a comment in the comment box below. We always appreciate that. It helps with the algorithm. Mark Jefferson said, I always knew it was something about Brady that didn't sit well with me, like destroying a dynasty in the making with Seattle, coming back 28-3, being a high-scoring Rams offense and winning a Super Bowl with a team in 1 year. And all of a sudden, the coach can't coach. Basically, this is in comments because we had talked about how the white witch Giselle has basically hexed Tom Brady's career from this moment on.
She has. I think we kind of figured either he'd retire early or Father Time would hit eventually.
No, that's not what did it. It's like, well, actually, you know what? No, Father Time's always been there. There's just been like a protective shield the whole time, and it's like it finally came.
Yeah, but truth be told, I've watched him play all year. He's had some bad games, but he's also played well. Like he's playing like a good quarterback. He's just not playing like
he's not as consistent as he's been though. That's
right. He's not as consistent. But what do you expect? It's 45 years old, right? I just think that roster is not good. That's a bad roster now. They're injured and they're not playing well.
So they're injured and they're old too. That has something to do with it. I having a few veterans around is a good thing, but your whole team can't consist of 30-something-year-olds. Like you have to have some level of youth in there before.
You have to have a mix. You have to have a mix. Like Bryant McKinney told me one time when he was here, he played here 1 year. He said if he was building a roster, he would have a veteran in every single unit, like to kind of oversee the unit and to kind of guide the unit. Then we got Brian Flores in here who didn't believe in none of that and actually resented the idea of having quote unquote stars. And I still believe that he had some type of conspiracy against Xavier Howard to not make him captain because I had players swear to me that they voted for him as captain for last year. And all of a sudden he wasn't captain, right? And then this year he's a unanimous captain. Like almost everybody on the team voted for him captain. So we're learning that a lot of those philosophies were kind of nonsense and useless, really.
And if Flo were here, they would convince Bowden Jr. and Albert Wilson combined would make Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, that's just stupid. Like,
yeah, if you put their collective speed together, maybe
Joe Shad had a tweet. He said that Brian Flores resented like stars, right? Like the quote unquote stars, and that now the philosophy seems to be get as many stars as you can. Look, in the end,
it's like what the
in the end, this is still show business, okay? Now, my daughter is now a hardcore Miami Dolphin fan. She follows the team week to week. She loves Tyreek. She loves, Jalen Waddle. She's excited that they made this trade today. Like, all that matters. You're creating fans. Your team is relevant. You're on every show. Every single show today was talking about you as a Super Bowl contender. You'd rather have that, or you'd rather have what? Malcolm Brown, Albert Wilson,
good team players,
Lynn Bowden, Mac Hollins. Screw all of that. Go get good players. Can you imagine going up and try to beat? Look, maybe that's why Josh Allen kicked your ass, Flo, for 3 years. Okay, well, 2 years. Maybe that's why he kicked your ass every single time. And now the first year that we get a little bit of star power, whoa, look at this. We beat the Bills in Miami, right? Like, is it a coincidence? Of course it isn't.
No. I mean,
it also doesn't help. It doesn't help Brian Flores' case that he benched Mr. Fourth Quarter twice in the fourth quarter as a rookie. You know what I mean? Like, how stupid can you be?
It also doesn't help that he can't coach an offense to save his life. Mike McDaniel obviously knows what he's doing. That's a big, big, big deal.
That helps too. And I think, look, the Le Batard show had the greatest quote of the week. Okay, after that game on Sunday, they were pretty excited about what happened and the way Tua played. And he said that the Miami Dolphins and Stephen Ross, whenever they go to trial with that Brian Flores thing, that they're going to have Tua walk into the courtroom and then walk out. And then the jury's just going to dismiss the case.
Nice. I like that. That's hilarious.
But you look back on it and you think to yourself, like, we spent a lot of time defending Brian Flores because at least on defense, he knows what he's doing. Like, we can't deny that.
You know what he did? You know what Brian Flores did? And this is really, really interesting, okay? Because we're going to go back and we're going to go into a time machine here. Okay. And I want to get Ron in here because he has to say something. He's just watching me just talk. Okay. If you remember what Jimmy Johnson did here in the 90s, okay? He built the foundation of a great defense. Mm-hmm. He didn't have a clue what to do on offense, right? Then, of course, he lets Dave Wanstead take over because that was his buddy. Dave Wanstead was the same thing. He didn't have what his clue was on offense? Go trade a pile of first-round picks for Ricky Williams.
Ricky Williams. Yeah, go get Ricky Williams because I don't know what else to do.
Exactly.
The weird part about Jimmy Johnson is back, and now I'm going to go way back, but like before Lewis was born.
But on the main point is Jimmy Johnson was Brian Flores.
Yeah, you're right.
If we had the sense,
but could draft way better.
If we had the sense when Jimmy Johnson laid the foundation with that defense, and Jimmy Johnson said, "Look, I'm retiring. I don't want to do this no more." If we had the sense to then pivot right then and there to an offensive-minded coach, maybe we would have what we have today.
Maybe.
Yeah. And the weird part about Jimmy Johnson with that, and then we'll move on to the current team, was I used to watch back in the 90s after Jimmy left Dallas. Obviously, I know he was on Fox, but he was on an HBO show called Inside the NFL. I think that show's still on somewhere. Yeah. I don't know if it's even on still HBO anymore, but it's on somewhere.
I think it's on Showtime.
I haven't watched it for years. But anyway, he used to sit there and complain about the Dolphins running the ball too much and say, why are you running the ball when you have Dan Marino? He used to say that over and over again. Then he comes here and he gets the most average mid running back you could ever see in your life and gives the guy like 335 carries. And he finally, oh, wow, Marino finally got his 1,000-yard running back in Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, right? But the guy took 335 carries to get there. He had like 3 yards a carry. I mean, it was just weird with that. Like you used to say, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that when you have Dan Marino? Then you have Dan Marino. You run the ball with this like super average running back. You take away his play calling ability. It was just silly. But you're right about that.
No, sure. but a lot of general managers are being exposed right now. Right now, Howie Roseman and Chris Greer are the best general managers in football. Period. Okay, they have the results. they could point to, hey, I made this trade and I got this out of it. And I'd made this draft pick and this is the player that I picked. They could point to those things and they have a ton of successes. If you look at the Packers, if you look at the Green Bay Packers, that's an absolute joke. I don't know if you saw them against the Buffalo Bills, but we learned a lot of things. First of all, they have a sledgehammer run game, a great run game, a great offensive line. They have an all-time quarterback. Their secondary is really, really good. They made Josh Allen look silly in that game. Josh Allen, by the way, had 2 actual picks, and he had 3 almost picks. Now that we're calling,
almost picks only count if you're Tua. No one pays attention to it if it's anybody else.
I'm going to start almoststat.com, and we're going to count all almost everything. All right. Like Tua actually threw 4 touchdowns.
4 touchdowns. Passes. Yes, it was. That wasn't even Lions. Almost. That just didn't get called as a touchdown.
Yeah. By the way, who was the referee on that? How do you look at that and not know that it's a touchdown? Especially if you look at it real time, like he's in the air and the ball's in the end zone. Like nothing was touching. But look at the Packers. Like what's missing on that team? What's missing on the team? They have no receivers to throw to.
No receivers. And they still don't have any receivers because they weren't able to pull off.
How many yards did they run? How many yards did they run for against the Bills? Like that was a ridiculous amount of yardage.
Over 200 yards, I believe.
They ran for almost 200 yards against the Bills. And what did they get to show for it? They lost by 10. That's what they got.
Aaron Jones ran for 143 yards. A.J. Dillon ran for 54, and Rodgers himself ran for 11. So, yeah, that puts them over 200 yards rushing.
Yeah. Now, imagine if Aaron Rodgers had some targets to throw to. They would have beaten the Bills.
Yeah, they would have won.
They would have won. Because their problem was, okay, 3rd and 6, we got to complete a pass. Okay, who's going to catch this? Who's going to run a pattern? Who's going to beat somebody to catch a first down here? And nobody did.
Is Sammy Watkins just washed up? Because he's there.
Yeah, he's old. He can't run no more. Like, that's a guy that made his name. Look, that's why Deshaun Jackson is a modern miracle because he's old and he's still fast. So
Deshaun Jackson's still in the NFL?
Yeah, he just signed with the Ravens.
No, yeah. I didn't even know that.
Yes.
Wow. I thought you were going to tell me back.
I remember last year he was catching 60-yard bombs from the Rams. Remember?
I didn't even remember that. That's funny.
That's crazy, man. So speaking of the offense, though, because I want to get into some of the things that happened, including at the trade deadline. One of the things that and this is something that we've talked about on the show here on the post game show. And I'm going to get into it here because I've been arguing with it with my friends, both on shows and in our little personal chat here. The Dolphins just traded for Jeff Wilson from the San Francisco 49ers, which I'm good with. I'm happy with that.
It's what we needed. We needed a back like that.
Yes, we needed a back. Now, I have been a proponent, heavily so, and Ron knows exactly where I'm going with this when I bring it up.
Yeah, of giving Mostert, like making him the bell cow.
I don't need to give him
feeding him nonstop.
I don't need a bell cow.
Give him 45 carries a game.
I feel like he deserves the lion's share. I believe that Raheem Mostert deserves the lion's share of the carries, however many carries that is, because
which he's been getting, by the way.
Which he's been getting.
McDaniel finally said, "Okay, Edmonds sucks."
The desperation it felt like sometimes from people to go get Kareem Hunt. We need Kareem Hunt more than anything in the world. Kareem Hunt, like I asked straight up on the postgame show, if Kareem Hunt showed up in Miami and he paired with Raheem Mostert, who gets the most carries? And he thought about it for a second. He thought about it for a second, and he said Kareem Hunt. I'm like, So basically, we don't think Raheem Mostert is either durable enough or good enough to be the starting running back for this. Am I putting too much stock in what Raheem Mostert does? Am I thinking that? Am I wrong in thinking that just because he's had injury history that all of a sudden we have to treat Raheem Mostert like he's a porcelain doll and it's just inevitable that he's going to go down again? I don't personally feel that way. Like for a backup running back, great. Jeff Wilson's great. Awesome. I'm very happy to have him because he's the perfect tandem because they've already done the tandem thing before. But to act like Kareem Hunt was like the missing piece for this offense, you're basically saying Raheem Mostert's not good enough because you want somebody you want to talk about star power. Kareem Hunt keeps getting talked about like he's a star running back. And he would have immediately, at least in post-game show last week with some of my co-hosts, that Kareem Hunt would have immediately been the starter, and Raheem Mostert would have been the backup again. I just feel like we're underestimating just what Raheem Mostert is capable of. He can do all the things that you need a running back to do in this league.
I think if you think about it, with Wilson, they made the better move, and here's why they made the better move. They already took Edmonds, who was in a zone running scheme in Arizona, and put him in Miami scheme, and it still wasn't working. He wasn't getting it. So if you go get Kareem Hunt, you kind of risk maybe that possibly happening again. Where versus you go get Wilson, it's not going to happen. For a fact he knows the system and he can run it. It was just a safer bet. And I'm not even sure that Hunt is let's just say Hunt is better than Wilson. Okay, but what if he comes in and he's Edmonds and he just doesn't get it, and he's not catching on, and he's not understanding, and he's not able to hit the correct gap, and he gets stuffed at the middle of the line on 4th down instead of running it to the left for a touchdown, for example. What if that were to happen? That would have been a bit more risky. And I don't know if Miami tried to go get Kareem Hunt and it just didn't happen. They did. Mm-hmm. They did. But I think it was safer to go with Wilson. Personally, I think it worked out better because I'd rather have, it's like the devil, as they say. I'd rather have it safer and not take another chance that we end up with another Edmonds situation with a guy that just isn't quite, because I don't think Edmonds is a bad player. I just think he was just a little bit lost and just not comfortable. For whatever reason, he just was not comfortable in this offense. And maybe he'll go to Denver and do better. It very well could happen. I think it was safer to go with Wilson.
Yeah, Edmonds is a really thoughtful guy, but those guys are the ones that, can get in their own heads and, basically just zone themselves out. And, as far as Kareem Hunt, I think he would have been a fabulous fit here for that system, because even the Browns even changed their system for him during games. Like, they tend to run outside zone with him, and with Chubb, they tend to run more of a called running game, a gap scheme. So, and Kareem Hunt also comes from a Chiefs system, which is also very similar to what Miami wants to run in their running game. So, yeah, he would have been a perfect fit.
But didn't we think that with Edmonds? I mean, they were running a zone scheme in Arizona.
CK disagreed, because the problem was that you look at Edmonds and you think, okay, because of his speed and his style, he's going to translate well to the system. And CK always was skeptical. He always thought, you know what, you're trying to get an athlete that should be good for the system, and then just trying to use him for the system to see, and see if he fits. Turns out that didn't work out. It turns out that actually there was more to it than just getting a guy who runs fast outside. And, and then of course the drops started coming, and forget it. Then it became untenable, really. Yeah. But if you look at Kareem Hunt especially, I think it would have happened. The problem with Kareem Hunt is that I believe his contract demands are exorbitant and kind of crazy and a little bit unrealistic.
He demands not only star money, I'm sure he would have demanded to basically say, that guy you've got over there, Raheem Mostert, yeah, I want his carries now, please and thank you.
And I don't think Greer, and I would think that McDaniel's in the same philosophy based off San Fran, although a little different story with what they just pulled, but I think they felt like they needed to do something big. I don't think they're either McDaniel or Greer in the mindset of like big star, pay a lot of money for a running back. I just don't. They want big stars and pay money for quarterbacks, wide receivers, cornerbacks, defensive ends. That seems to be Greer, what he's done, and he's continuing along that same path with these trades we saw today.
Yeah, and it's not it's not in their philosophy to have a bell cow. And when people say, well, but they just traded for Christian McCaffrey and now he's the bell cow. He's not. If you watch them play against the Rams, he had 18 carries. Like, they're never going to give him 20 carries. You know who's coming back for San Francisco? A really good running back, Elijah Mitchell. That's why they traded us Jeff Wilson, because they weren't going to use him. They're getting Elijah Mitchell back next week. I promise you it's going to be more like 15-12 as far as carry count, because that's what they believe in. They believe in keeping their running backs fresh, because it's a high volume system. Like, they're going to give a lot of touches to those running backs. They're going to keep them fresh.
And that's perfectly fine. But my issue was always just this idea that you needed like an upgrade. at running back because somehow Raheem Mostert wasn't cutting it. Now, if you want to say you want a better tandem, fine. But like Raheem Mostert has done everything we've asked of him and more. I feel like he's not getting enough respect. Like if he got 20 carries, I would not lose any sleep over it.
I just don't think they'll give any running back 20 carries.
No, I don't think they will either. But it wasn't the question of whether they would. It was a question of could he handle it if they tried to, and everybody kept saying no.
And one of the things that's buried in this past game, that buried in Tua's performance, is the fact that we rushed the ball. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I thought I remember seeing 109 yards. Maybe it was more, but I thought I recall us running the ball for 109 yards. I know some of it was that bigger Tua run, but we did run the ball fairly well. Game? Yes, correct.
Yeah, so Raheem Mostert, 14 carries, 64 yards. Tua ran for 5 times for 19. Chase Edmonds, 4 carries, 14 yards. A lot of the hardest 14 yards ever in all of recorded history.
And by the way, the guy that they're adding, because I saw a lot of Dolphin fans thinking, they added a guy that San Francisco doesn't use just because he knows the system. Jeff Wilson has 500 yards rushing and is averaging 5.1 yards per carry. Okay,
that's great. That's on pace to be 1,000. We just added 1,000-yard back with a 5.5 average yard per carry.
If you just look at the Dolphins stats right now and make believe that Jeff Wilson was here, you would have right now a receiver on pace for 2,000 yards, another receiver on pace for 1,600 yards, and 2 running backs on pace for 1,000 yards each. Think about that.
With a team with a roster like that, you'd think they were undefeated, but Tua went down for 3 games. So, that's not what happened. But anyway, so let's get into the whole trade deadline thing. So obviously, Alfs, you said it on OnlyFins, which by the way, $3 a month, go to Patreon, go ahead and just talk with the best Dolphins fans ever and get some insider info. Bradley Chubb as the new Dolphins pass rusher. I was hoping that we would be able to dump off Cedric Wilson. I was hoping that maybe we would be able to grab another corner somewhere. I thought maybe that they really would just go ahead and release William Jackson because that was where it seemed to be trending. Like they were just going to dump him because nobody wanted that contract. And then
that was happening. That was happening, by the way.
And the Steelers just showed up and said, fine, we'll take it. I don't want to have to get into a bidding war for this guy.
Yeah, and the contract was going to be an issue, but, like all those things, like put it this way, the Dolphins right now, they don't have any money, okay? And they can't pay Bradley. They can't pay Bradley Chubb on Sunday. Bradley Chubb is going to line up on Sunday, and they don't have the money to pay him under the cap, quote unquote. So they still have to work some things around before they get Bradley Chubb in because they owe him $7 million for the balance of the year. The Cedric Wilson thing was always going to be about saving a couple of dollars. Who cares? I know that they tried to move him, but they couldn't. But a lot of people think that it's just as easy as calling Dallas on the phone saying, hey, you want Cedric Wilson? Yeah, we do. Okay, here he is. No, Cedric Wilson. Dallas also has their own cap situation, right? And remember, we gave Cedric Wilson a contract. I think he's in charge for $6 million this year. So it's as easy as you call the Cowboys. You go, hey, man, what do you say to a 6th-round pick for Cedric Wilson? And they say, yeah, let's do it. And then the Cowboys call you back and say, look, give me 15 minutes because we gotta see, who we cut and, how we move our money around. And then it turns out, you know what? We can't cut any of these guys. And we can't do this. We can't move this money around. We can't restructure any more deals. And they call us back and they say, look, we can't do the deal. And it's as simple as that, So it's also the willingness to do it. And, Cedric Wilson, I know that they tried to move him. They tried to move his contract. But if you think about it, they ended up moving Edmonds' contract and got a cheaper one in Jeff Wilson. That's good work by Chris Greer today. Really good work by Chris Greer.
Yeah, for a guy that's going to be likely more productive.
Yeah. And if you like my philosophy of getting all those, because look, as soon as they traded for Christian McCaffrey, it's obvious to me that the 49ers were going to win a pile of games. Okay. And if you watch them play against the Rams, they absolutely destroyed the Rams. 49ers are going to win a ton of games. Okay. We had a lot of bad luck with that 49er pick. It kept getting worse and worse. And if you trust my philosophy, and I think it's the right philosophy, if you have a pick that's 25 or higher, 25 to 32, man, just trade it for an impact player because all those picks are, they're low odd lottery tickets, 25 and up. Now, if you have a top 10 pick, absolutely use it. Top 15, top 20, use it. You could get impact players. Look, the Dolphins drafted Jalen Phillips. He was the number 1 edge rusher off the board when they took him. And they took him, what, 18th? That's good work, okay? So, like, that's a valuable pick. You took the top edge rusher in a draft, and now he's the guy that you're going to count on for the foreseeable future. He's a signature player. But you got to pick high in the 20s. Trade it for more picks or trade it for an impact player. And that's what the Rams get right when they do their F them picks philosophy. I think that should be the philosophy going forward. You have a contender, those high picks, they're useless. They're useless. They're Noah Igbenogany. They're Charles Harris. And if you don't believe me, look at the picks all around Noah Igbenogany when they took Noah Igbenogany 30th. There's an Isaiah Wilson in there. Like, there's a bunch of garbage. Like, guys that are not even playing anymore or bottom end of the roster. So that they turned what's likely going to be like pick 28 or something like that into one of the best, like into what, a top 5 pass rusher in the NFL? Hell yeah, sign me up for that.
So that was one of the things, and I want to get into some actual comments here because we haven't been able to do that a whole lot here. Let me just pull this up here. One of the tweets that replied to me was this one here from Calicia. I'm in shock. I'm so used to crap trades or no trades that it feels weird to be making moves in the right direction. So the Bradley Chubb trade, yeah. So in your opinion, Bradley Chubb is a top 5 pass rusher, which is great. That's fantastic. Now, one of the other comments that are coming in on the comment thread here on our currently show is from Jermaine King saying we literally have no pass rush. I really like the trade. Well, the trade is great, but I feel like it's kind of a misnomer to say that the Dolphins have no pass rush, because Jalen Phillips is definitely like you want to talk about Chase Edmonds being the king of almost catches. Jalen Phillips is the king of almost sacks. Like, he's always right there.
On my website, almoststats.com, Jalen Phillips leads the league with almost 17 sacks right now. So we have him right now as our almost defensive player of the year.
And that's just wild to me, because the fact that they're not getting the sacks, that doesn't mean the Dolphins have no pass rush.
Let me explain it because I went on with David Eversaw earlier in the day, and he was asking me, how does this work? And I'm like, you don't understand. When you sign Bradley Chubb, a lot of fans are thinking, we got ourselves a 12 to 15 sack guy. No, you got yourself a guy that might get you 12 sacks, that might get you 15 sacks, might get you 10 sacks, but he's going to unlock Jalen Phillips. Okay. You had Jalen Phillips before playing that buck linebacker role, okay, which is whenever you see him standing up on the right side of the line, he's in the 9 technique, which is about 2 paths outside of the tackle, or in the 7 technique, which is 1 path outside of the tackle, okay? Every time you see Jalen Phillips right there, and he comes around the edge, and he's so close to the quarterback, but he doesn't get him, that's a pressure, that's a hurry. It's not a sack, right? You know who's going to be doing that now? Bradley Chubb, which allows Jalen Phillips to rush as a 5 tech or even a 3 tech, which is in between the guard and the tackle. And now he gets to beat up on slow guards to the quarterback. This could unlock Jalen Phillips is what it's supposed to do, okay? As well as giving you a really good pass rusher in Bradley Chubb.
So this is a situation where 1 + 1 = 3, pretty much.
Yeah, like you already had a good player in Jalen Phillips. Bradley Chubb could turn him into a superstar.
That's kind of the weird thing. Is that kind of
look? I'll explain it even better way in Dolphin terms.
Okay.
Jalen Waddle was pretty good last year, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
They added Tyreek Hill.
Yep.
And Jalen Waddle right now is a superstar.
1 + 1 = 10 in that case.
Okay. Because Jalen Waddle was good last year. Was he this good last year? No.
God.
Like right now, he's having a better year than some guys like Stephon Diggs. Better year than he's right on par with Justin Jefferson. Think about that. He's having a better year than Devonta Adams. That's Jalen Waddle. That's your number 2. Why? Because your number 1 is Tyreek Hill. This is the same thing.
We really do have a dangerous offense. Like when we say it, it's not just hyperbole. It's not just bias. Yeah, I mean we're biased. But we're realistic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we really do have a dangerous offense. It's insane.
It's
crazy. It still feels surreal. Like I don't feel like some Patriots fan where they've been winning for 15 years, and you just sit back and we're the best. Or it's not a cockiness. Like when I say it, it's just shock of so many years of terrible offense, terrible team in general, but especially terrible offense.
I was going to use the comparison that it was just like when Cameron Wake helped Olivier Vernon get paid.
Yeah, something like that.
That's true. And then he went to the Giants, and he was kind of mid.
and everybody's talking about, but now you got to pay him $20 million. Well, first of all, it's not your money. All right. Second of all, they have a pretty good mix on salary right now, and you could do the math. Emmanuel Ogbah will be here next year, or they're gonna have to trade him, okay, to try to save the money. But if not, he'll be here next year, and then they'll cut him the following year. Like that's gonna be the cost of doing business. But you get him for 2 years, okay? That's not a terrible thing.
So what's the starting defense now, Alf? Like that front seven. Like if you could, kind of, because we have like now, because Chubb's he's a linebacker, so you know what I mean, and so it seems like you have an extra linebacker now. Phillips is a linebacker, and
he plays in
you have Sealer and Christian and Davis and Ogbah. It's just what's that look like?
Yeah, and this tweet basically says that Bradley Chubb's going to transform this defense. That could be taken in more than one way.
Yeah, Bradley Chubb will play in Melvin Ingram's role right now. Okay. And I thought that Melvin Ingram was getting way too many snaps as it is already. He's older, and we were going to burn him out by the end of the season. Now Melvin Ingram is very good depth, okay? You could keep him fresh. You could even make him inactive a week or two to keep him fresh for the stretch run when you might need to use them both, okay, as pass rushers, especially against Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen. And that's another reason why this trade is important, is for those two guys. Because you don't blitz those guys.
But here's a question, though, because you've already highlighted many times that Melvin Ingram is actually really solid in run defense. How's Bradley Chubb at doing that?
Great. He's spectacular on run defense. No, he's an all-around player. Like, the only concern with Bradley Chubb is his health situation. Now, he's been healthy as of late, but he's had some health issues in the past. That's the only concern. I would compare Bradley Chubb to Teron Armstead.
That's high praise.
But that's on the defense.
Yeah, that's saying a lot because TA, man, that guy's one of the best left tackles in the game.
Well, Bradley Chubb, if you're going to talk about edge players, if we're going to count Micah Parsons, look, TJ Watt's the best in the league. Myles Garrett is not an edge player. He's a defensive end. He's a straight-up defensive end. The way they play him, he's a defensive end. So is J.Lo Phillips. Von Miller is an edge player. I'm trying to think the guys that are better. Brian Burns is also an edge player. Okay. Bradley Chubb is right there. He's like a top 5 guy.
Is Bradley Chubb better than Brian Burns?
Yes, because
there you go.
He's not one dimensional. Brian Burns is absolutely just one dimensional.
So why was he?
He goes after quarterbacks. Alf? What happened?
I don't think he was.
He available? That was the question I asked.
Because they don't want to pay him.
5 reasons thread right off the bat.
Because they don't want to pay him, and they have a $40 million quarterback. That's what happens. When you have $40 million quarterbacks.
So he's collateral damage to
Russell Wilson.
Of getting
and they have a young quarterback. They have a young player that, by the way,
price tag.
Yeah, and they have a young player that, by the way, we loved coming out in the draft, Brian Browning, and he's on the come up, and he's a pretty good pass rusher as well. So they're going to go cheaper. And remember, they signed a free agent in Randy Gregory as well. So they're going cheaper at the position. Trust me, if Russell Wilson was not there, Bradley Chubb would have signed a long-term deal with the Broncos. He was a team captain, by the way, with the Broncos. So the Dolphins just added another team captain.
Does Chubb fix does he fix the issue with pressure on the quarterback? I understand that Phillips has been getting pressure, but let's be honest, no one else has been getting pressure. Like a lot of times you'll see, and I know that Kyle Krabs, he did a great job. He showed all these snaps, right? And as the quarterback snaps the ball or throws the ball, Phillips is right there, but no one else.
He's the king of almost sacks.
The quarterback.
Like, they just hang on for like a 2 seconds, like 1 second longer.
Close. Do you think that Chubb has fixed that issue, especially with the fact that we're going to change the way we play defense now?
Yeah, well, Myles Garrett is number 1 in pass rush win rate. Number 2 is Micah Parsons. Number 3 is Bradley Chubb. So that kind of answers your question, right?
So now one of the questions from Carson was, because you were talking about transforming the defense, it seems like the defensive line is going to be the main focus now. So Carson says, do you think us not trading for a corner means they think Byron Jones comes back sooner than later? And I'll add to that, does the cornerback position suddenly not matter as much for the defense?
1,000%. They're going to start switching it up because now it's different. Now, we talked about this on the podcast because I was like, is it gone? It's not gone. Like, and I'm talking about the zero blitzes and those zero blitz looks and that pressure style defense. Whenever they play some of these slapdick quarterbacks, trust me, they're going to bring the heat. They're going to bring a lot of blitzes, and they're going to try to smash them. All right. We talked about this on the podcast. This is for Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. You can't blitz those guys. You can't. Look at Green Bay. Green Bay has a spectacular secondary. They did a very nice job against Josh Allen. They blitzed them 8 times. They got smoked for it, okay? Whenever they didn't, they played softer coverages. They tried to get there with 4 and with 5. That's when they were effective. Why were we effective against Josh Allen in week 3? We did the same thing. We were getting there with Ogba and with Phillips. We were getting there with 4 and with 5. When we were blitzing, he was beating us with these little short passes, and he was getting out into the flat. That's the way forward. You can't blitz those guys and beat them. You have to get to them with 4 and with 5 guys. And that's the plan going forward. If you're going to win, if you're going to try to win a championship, you got to get through those 2 guys. You got to start transforming your defense. Trust me, you weren't going to line up with Xavier Howard and Byron Jones. We tried it. We tried it against – look, the best example was in 2020. You had a hot Tua Tagovailoa at home against the Kansas City Chiefs, and our defense made them turn it over how many times? He threw 3 picks, and he had a fumble, right? So they made him turn it over 4 times.
Plus, there was that Jerome Baker got that like 30-yard sack. You could almost count that as a turnover.
So, look, we did all of that, and we still lost.
Yeah, we still lost.
Okay, and why did we lose? Our offense didn't turn it over.
No, we just couldn't. We just couldn't keep it up on defense.
Yeah,
they just found a way.
You couldn't keep it up for 60 minutes against that offense.
Not against Mahomes. Yeah.
They were eventually going to break you. And Tyreek Hill, yeah. They were eventually going to break you. Okay, and that's the way it is.
Do you guys think Tyreek Hill's like better than he was with Kansas City? Doesn't it feel that way a little bit?
I think,
or do we just use him differently?
He's a bigger target, that's for sure. Because all of a sudden, it's not spread around so much. It's not like Travis Kelce over here, and then you can toss it to Clyde Edwards-Helaire there. Patrick Mahomes going to run it by himself on this one, and there were weapons all over that Kansas City offense. Like you could not even breathe properly because Tyreek was always there. But even if you manage to cover him, like triple cover him, somebody's going to be open, and you would always find the guy playing backyard football. Now with the Dolphins, Tyreek is now much more of a main target. He's not going to be sharing as many targets now. He has to share with Jalen Waddle, of course. But that's part of why they're getting so many numbers. It's not just because, Tua's hitting them a lot. That's great. But they're kind of only the 2 guys really getting all that many targets, if you really think about it. The offense runs through those 3 guys, Tua, Waddle, and Tyreek Hill. You'll throw in Raheem Mostert
and the running game. No, in the running game with Raheem Mostert, and that's another thing. Everybody keeps saying, "Oh, the running game sucks."
It doesn't suck.
It doesn't suck.
It doesn't suck. It's just
when you're running. Look, there's a simple number. Okay, there's a simple number. First of all, you have 3 yards per carry. That's my podcast. The other number is 4.5 yards per carry. That's what you want to run it for. Okay. They're running it for 4.5 yards a carry with Raheem Mostert. And now they just added a guy that averages 5.1 yards per carry. So, that's an effective running game. Now, if people have it in their head that they need to see 45 rushes and 280 yards. No, that's not what you got to do.
I think I just looked it up. Wilson, I forgot. Now I forgot. I think he was the 14th or 15th in total rushing yards for the season. So we, in essence, took a 5th round pick and added a top 20 running back. And by the way, Mostert was just a couple behind him at like 18. So we have 2 top 20 running backs now. It's like a fantasy football roster. We have a fantasy football roster. Like if you could literally take the Dolphins offense, Tua, Waddle, Gesicki, Hill, Mostert, and Wilson.
Yeah, and by the way, look,
and
shout out,
make that your roster and actually have a shot to win that week if just you wanted to have fun with it. I think somebody in OnlyFans, by the way, is doing that in the fantasy other sports channel. I think he has one team where he just starts all the Dolphins just to see what happens.
The only downside to this is that it's going to be hard to pick who's going to have the over in the rushing yards for the Dolphins now from on Prize Picks, because you don't know if it's going to be Mostert or Wilson now.
That's true.
Yeah. No. Here's the thing. And by the way, Tyreek Hill is like, doing interviews. And he's ecstatic about this. Okay, and
he loves He loves I'm just going to say that right now. He loves adding
Yeah, but I will say I'll say this. Look, and by the way, in Price Picks, I'll always take the over on those two guys.
Hill and Waddle for sure. But like, how do you choose between Mostert and Wilson now?
Yeah, that's going to be an issue. Okay, that's going to be an issue. But if you notice that Mike Gesicki is becoming more of a thing now as of late,
yeah, as they have to focus more and more on the wide receivers. McDaniel's smart. He's finding ways to use Gesicki, even though he still isn't necessarily the prototype tight end he wanted for the offense. You saw
what Mike McDaniel said about that route, the Gesicki touchdown, that it was a route
4-3.
concept. It was a 4-3. It was a route concept that they hadn't ever run, but it was like a mind meld where Gesicki knew, okay, because Gesicki talked about it after the game. They asked him about the touchdown, and he says, I was supposed to run a corner route. But when I was running the route, I was like, if I run the corner route, I'm running behind this cornerback, and I'm basically taking myself out of the play. What if I cut it short? And he said in real time, I cut it short, and the ball was there, which tells you all you need to know.
But here's the thing: you can't even plan for that as a defense. How do you plan for a play that the quarterback and the receiver didn't even know was going to happen until they were running it?
Yeah, until they changed it.
How do you plan for that?
Until they changed it in the middle of the play.
In the middle of the play.
Yeah. And then both of them were, in tune. And by the way,
that takes a very smart, accurate quarterback and a trusting coach.
And a very smart tight end to say, you know what, screw this route. I'm going to cut it right here because I think I'm going to be wide open. And sure enough, he was. And by the way, it's I had look. There's a lot of dumb tweets out there, but there was a special dumb tweet earlier this week when this guy was telling me.
You want me to highlight it?
No. This guy doesn't deserve any more publicity than I gave him yesterday. But he was saying that the way you stop Tua was to play man coverage.
Was this a Dolphins fan?
Yes. Do you want to take a guess? I don't think he was a Dolphin fan. I think he was something else. He was like, no, you play man and then you suffocate the receivers and, Tua has...
Yeah, good luck.
Are we sure we're not talking about Clump?
No. and then Tua's going to have a hard time, completing passes against man coverage. This is hilarious, okay? You know who's the only quarterback in the NFL with a perfect passer rating against man coverage?
Gee, could it be Tua Tagovailoa?
Yes.
How do you play man against Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Mike Gesicki, and then you don't even count the running back? How do you do that? Like, that doesn't make sense.
You don't. Okay?
You don't.
Okay, it's suicide to play man against this defense. Okay, I mean against this offense, it just is.
And that's mainly what Detroit wanted to run because that's what they like.
And then they completely got out of it. Then they got completely out of it. And then one thing I loved is that they gave a zero look, and then Tua audible to, "You're gonna zero blitz me. I'm just throwing it as far as I can to Tyreek."
Yeah, he just got to launch.
And he came down with it. Thank goodness, though.
Yeah,
because the same thing that keeps happening, they keep calling it under throws. It's like because he has to stop, jump up, and
by the way,
I'm
starting to wonder if it's when Tyreek is like, say he's running a 9 route or whatever, and he's at full blazing speed.
It doesn't matter.
I promise you can go back multiple plays. Mahomes underthrew him the same exact way. I just don't know that you can. I don't think you can launch it far enough to where he's not going to have to come back for it. The guy is just that fast. No doubt. Tua doesn't have Mahomes' arm. He doesn't have Herbert's arm. I'm not pretending like he does. I'm just saying.
Didn't you get shook at Kurt Warner earlier this afternoon about that?
Yeah, it's just it's what CK was talking about in the off season. CK. For anybody who doesn't know who CK is on 3 yards per carry, I'm sure if you watch the show, you probably know. But he was talking about how the different stages or levels of realizing that Tua is actually good and what some of these guys are going to say. And one of them was, you're going to start to make kind of excuses for why he's good. And that's what Kurt Warner was doing. He was in essence saying Tua's good, but he was making all these excuses and it was kind of like a backhanded compliment. So yeah, it got on my nerves. I said something to him, but he didn't respond. He did respond to another Dolphins fan though, that kind of said the same thing I said. He's like, "Why are you mad? I'm complimenting him." I'm like, "Yeah, but it's kind of a backhanded compliment. He's the weakest arm in the NFL, but he's good because of these reasons."
Hey, look, I talked about it today on the podcast. Did you guys see Pardon the Interruption yesterday?
Pardon the interrupt. No, I didn't. I haven't watched that show for years.
The Canadians.
No, that's what
I see. All I remember is
that's
the
with
Canadian
Wilbon
flag.
and I forget the other
Kornheiser.
Kornheiser, yeah,
Tony Kornheiser and Mike Wilbon. It's the oldest show on ESPN, the oldest debate show on ESPN. I think they've been doing it for 90 years or whatever, or whatever the hell it is. But they were on yesterday, and the topic was who are NFL MVP candidates, and they had Patrick Mahomes number 1, they had Josh Allen number 2.
Fair.
And then both of them agreed that Tua Tagovailoa was 3.
Yeah, between him and Hurts, I mean, you can't disregard the season he's having either.
When you're getting those mentions, it's over, okay? It's just a matter of doing it consistently and then stacking the years together. You know what I mean?
Who was the guy from CBS that just said, "Okay, I was wrong. I admit it. I suck. I was terrible. I was wrong. I give up. Please leave me alone, Dolphins fans. I was wrong."
We bullied him into submission. I love it.
It was so they did. They did.
Hey, but there was the thing is, man, there were so many stupid people, man. There were so many idiotic, takes.
Some of them are still hanging on. I was watching
there's a
with
few
Dan
still
Orlovsky
hanging on.
and Dominique Foxworth, and this one dude on the other side of the table is just like, "Oh, but what about this game where in the second half they were absolutely putrid against the Steelers?" I'm like, dude, what's with you, man? Like you can't let it go, can you? You really can't.
Yeah.
Like some people
there's certain people that they're just gonna have these horrible takes, and they're not gonna, they're not gonna change them. They're just gonna stick to it. Like Skip Bayless, Skip and Chris Sims, like you can see Chris Sims is looking for the way to weasel out of it.
Oh,
and change it. You know what I mean?
Especially on Sunday night before.
Yeah, because now he's calling. Now he's calling Tua a wheeler and dealer, right? Like he's orchestrating this great offense.
This is the guy that said Gardner Minshew was better.
Yeah,
than Tua.
No, he said more. Yeah, forget about Keyshawn Johnson. That's over. Like that guy's he's never going to change. Okay.
Yeah.
Like Tua will be on stage accepting the yellow jacket, and Keyshawn will be somewhere. Saying he sucks. Okay, so forget about that one.
Do you remember Chris Sims putting up the fan poll for quarterback rankings, like the quarterback and coach rankings?
Oh yeah.
And with Dolphins Twitter to collectively made Tua and McDaniel the winner. All of a sudden, that seems to be a very accurate representation of the NFL season.
But I think it was like who would win, like a bar fight, like a brawl kind of thing. Which I agree. I mean, no offense to McDaniel, but my wife, she doesn't really watch football, but she watched a minute. She was watching the beginning of the game, and she was talking about Campbell, and she said the coach from the other team looks like he could snap your coach in half. I'm like, yeah, he probably.
Well, Dan
could.
Campbell can snap anybody in half by looking at him. So there is that.
Yeah, that guy looks like he could still lace up and be a tight end. He's huge.
Yeah, and maybe in a year he'll be the tight end coach for the Dolphins.
But isn't that John Embry's job still? Or are we saying
he's the assistant coach? He's the assistant coach. So
he does coach tight ends though, doesn't he? Like isn't he like a
it's him and somebody else. He has an assistant, but he's like they're still working through their offensive issues. By the way, as far as getting plays in, like the system is growing. Like now it's becoming more of a committee now to get a play in. Because I guess it was too hard. Like initially, it was just 2 guys trying to orchestrate the entire offense, and they're like, "Okay, we can't do this." So now they're going to a more. I think I talked about this on a podcast or on OnlyFans or on Twitter. I don't know where the hell I talk about this, but they've been switching it up. Now they're going to a more traditional style, which is each unit sends in the personnel groupings. So Mike McDaniel calls the play. Everybody hears it in the headset, and now they know which personnel grouping has to go in. So Wes Welker runs the wide receivers. Studsville runs the running backs, so on and so forth. And then Embry sends in the personnel grouping as far as tight ends. So, now it's working a little bit more traditionally than before. McDaniel originally wanted to streamline it and make it as few people as possible. and that didn't work. So
Yes, Javier. Somebody did say that McDaniel wasn't going to be a good coach because he wasn't masculine or tough enough. He wasn't manly enough. I cannot remember. I was trying
It
to
was
keep
somebody from CBS, NBC Boston talking.
If you're an
about it before the
OnlyFans, you
Patriots
guys
game.
know that I kept like all these receipts. Like I have on my notes, I have all these saved, like tweets, comments, stuff I saw on shows. But man, it got to be like
Okay, so the
there's
last
just
episode
so
of
much
Pulse
of it. I
Fins
can't
Nation
remember.
for
I
the
couldn't keep
season
up with it all.
So what the last episode of Pulse Fins Nation, we're just gonna go read them one by one. Is that what we're gonna do here?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we can read. Yeah, we
All
can
right.
read them all then. Like,
So-
by the way, Nick Wright said we'd only win 5 games. So guess
Well,
Yeah,
we're-
and then-
we're not
and then-
I guess
winning
we're done for the year, right?
yeah, and then he changed it. Remember, he changed it the last second when he realized, oh, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, and I don't see what anybody does in the off season. So let me change it to 9 games. Yeah,
Oh, I didn't even know he changed it.
Yeah, he changed it to 9 games.
No, okay. We should probably still win more than that.
No, but the best one was Wilds on that show. It was hilarious.
Kevin Wiles, yeah.
Yeah.
I kind
He
of like
said-
him. He's a big Patriots guy, but he doesn't take himself very seriously.
Yeah, well, you can't take him very seriously when you have takes like the one that he had where he's like, I could see Miami starting 0-5.
Oh, yes, I remember that. I remember him saying that. I actually had that in there as well. That was in there because I actually watched that show sometime. Oh, I watched it before they moved it though.
I just can't accept Simon's question about whether or not there's a anti-Dolphins conspiracy. No, there absolutely is. I'm sorry. There just is. Like
It's a regional conspiracy. That's all it is.
yeah.
It's just like imagine if they put us in charge of ESPN. Do you think that we'd be biased against the Bills and the Jets?
Probably.
And the Patriots.
Probably.
Probably.
It would
Okay,
just
well,
be all
well,
Dolphins all day.
Well, it's the opposite. Like if they made us the producers of all the shows on ESPN, yeah, there'd be like a little bias there against the Bills and against the Patriots and against the Jets, right?
Just like Undisputed leads with Cowboys talk almost every single episode.
And LA talk, anything that has to do with
Lakers,
LA.
yeah, they like to talk Lakers and Cowboys is what they do all day. Then we would have ESPN, we'd have a show where they lead what is it, First Take? We'd make them lead with Tua talk and Dolphins talk every single show.
Yeah. So,
but now it's warranted though.
Yeah, that's all it is. They're not biased. It's not a conspiracy. They're just biased against you.
Yeah.
They're biased against you.
It's silly to believe that that's not the case. That they're not biased.
There are a bunch of Patriots, Jets, and Bills fans up there. That's all they are.
Well, that's a lot of them worked. They went through those camps. They were in those. They were beat writers.
They proved it the other day when the Jets went 5-2. What did Greeny post?
Yeah, he's a huge Jets fan.
He posted a picture of himself with all his producers wearing Jet hats, celebrating the following day.
Yeah, just wait until we show. Wait until he comes down to Miami. We absolutely kick their.
Oh, we're gonna destroy. We're gonna make Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson sucks, bro.
Silly. We
should have
never lost.
And by the way, I'm already seen it because I don't know what it is with some Dolphin fans. Look, there's some that they're just miserable. Okay.
Yes.
Like there's people that they're just miserable, and I've seen a couple of them on OnlyFans, like talking about who says that the Dolphins are a player away. Like how many more players do you need, man? Like if you're not a player away now, then when are you a player away? Like now is when you are a player away, and that player was Bradley Chubb. Now it's about now you try to win a Super Bowl. Now is that weird? No, like that's what you're gonna do.
Here's a player for you to add to the rotation. I hear let's keep our defensive line fresh. I hear Ndamukong Suh is a free agent.
He fits. I'll tell you right now, he fits, man. Like,
I think
every time look, now is it overkill? Maybe.
I mean, he's 35. I
mean, you have Wilkins, Sealer, and Davis. I don't know.
Yeah, like that's the thing. Like where is it? His snaps are going to come at the expense of Sealer and Wilkins. Do you?
If you're going to go sign somebody sitting out at home,
you can have him run like
Malcolm Butler
right there.
If you're going to sign somebody sitting at home, sign them.
Have Stu rush as an end. There we go. We can make a Zach Wilson sandwich.
Now, you really want a vanity signing? Go sign Odell Beckham.
I was thinking about that today.
I
I was thinking about that today. That would be really interesting if they signed.
Yeah, because think about it.
Yeah.
He made an impact last year catching 3-4 passes a game. But those 3 or 4 passes a game were going for 60, 70, 80 yards, right?
Hey, you got a fan there, Alf.
Ah, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
By
We
the way,
try.
after you're done
But-
with this show, just go tune on 3 yards per carry because
Yeah, you
then
guys
you'll
just recorded like a few hours ago. I haven't gotten to listen yet.
Yeah, we had just put it up as soon as
Apple takes. I have an iPhone, and Apple. I'm trying to listen to some. I wouldn't have been able to listen to it all, but Apple takes longer than some of the other apps, so I just didn't end up getting to it.
All right. So before we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna wrap up with some actual Bears talk. Speaking of the Bears, so
Oh yeah, that's right. We have another game we have to play.
Yeah, there's
I
an
forgot
actual
about that.
game that's gonna be happening.
I forgot
on
that the
Sunday.
Detroit game wasn't the Super Bowl. My bad.
Yeah. No, it was fun though. I wish we could. First, although the Seahawks released their corner earlier, should we try for it? Okay, what corner are we talking about?
I
Did
think
miss
that's
that
Sidney
cut?
Jones.
Another Jones?
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know. I don't.
we're keeping
you
up
know,
with the Joneses.
I'd rather have Byron Jones back, but I don't know. It's very possible he had a more severe setback than is being rumored.
So you don't think he's coming back, do you?
I don't know. It's
I'm
not
starting to
looking
wonder.
good. Like I think the drop dead date. This is arbitrary. I don't have any information on this. Is probably next week. Like I don't know. Coaches like to be dealing with bringing back players past week 10.
But he's in
You
the
know what I mean?
building though, isn't he? Getting those mental
Yeah, he's
reps they
there.
love so much.
Yeah, he's in the building. He's on the sidelines. He's everywhere. He's in game planning.
He's
He's
just not playing.
Yeah, he's the highest paid fan in the history of sports. Okay, like right now. Okay,
I nominate Big E for that role. Let's just go there.
Okay, so he's getting paid $16 million a year to be a very, very, a very involved fan. Okay, but yeah, I'd love to see him come back.
So
but...
just to be clear though, because that was never really clear for me, there is no like hard set NFL deadline for his return, right?
No.
Okay,
all
so
you gotta do is once
he could come back week 17, technically speaking.
Yes, although there's a rule about coming back past week 16 and being eligible for the playoffs.
Okay. So there kind of is like
there's a weird rule toward the end of the year that if you come back too late, you're not eligible for the playoffs or something like that. Because remember, you get paid extra money in the playoffs. So, they do that so you don't circumvent the cap,
But before we move on to other stuff, Alf, why was Rowe inactive this past week?
Because,
that was really weird, right? Really weird.
I really think I buy it. Special teams. Does Eric Rowe play on special teams?
He didn't play on special teams before when we didn't have an injured safety and injured cornerbacks. And
I
he
think
was
they
active.
just liked Elijah Campbell, and I think they were sick and tired of crappy special teams. Which, by the way, it has been crappy. I'm sorry, it is.
Yeah, I agree.
I miss Darren Rizzi so much. I really do.
I don't know, but I'll tell you one thing, man. If they have to fit in Bradley Chubb's contract somehow, then it's kind of
Eric Rowe would be an easy cut.
Yeah, he would be. You get a big chunk of money right there if you just cut him. So,
but once a player plays week 1. Once they're on a roster week 1 and they play, and they're not only have to play, they're on that roster week 1. Aren't any guarantees they had? Now you have to pay them no matter what.
Yeah,
I mean, so how much money do we really save by cutting anybody?
Yeah, but I think most of those are already they're already either charged already or they're prorated throughout the season.
So maybe like incentives and things like that, we'd save some money there.
Yeah.
Okay.
For what it's worth, cutting Eric Rowe at least post June. I'm looking at over the cap. I'm sure that some of the money's gone by now, but it would have saved them about $4 million net profit,
which is about a little bit more than what they actually need to get Bradley Chubb's contract in for this.
Do you think it could be he's always? I mean, he played New England, then he played Miami, and he's always played the heavy man style. And now that Miami they've just conceded, hey, we're switching this to more of like. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe like a cover 3 kind of, or Tampa 2 or whatever they're doing. I'm not an expert. Does he just now not really fit anymore?
I mean, I would hope they still play man because that's what Xavier Howard's best at.
Yeah, I don't think they are. I just don't. I think they're.
Although I'll tell you one thing. Technically speaking, if you get Xavier Howard playing in his own heavy system, facing the quarterback almost all the time, he should be breaking on a lot of balls and picking them off. You know what I mean?
That's true. He is a ball hawk.
You know,
Holland too. That'll be nice. Holland too. definitely get his hands on more, maybe.
So that should help, and that should help with Xavier Howard's groin injury also.
Do
You know,
do you also think that going away from the zero blitz and the heavy man is more accentuating who possibly like a changing of tide in the secondary or changing of the guard, if you will, to X is your best player. And yeah, he's still your best player, but Holland's kind of on the come up.
Okay,
and
but
maybe a little bit more of a zone scheme.
Okay, best player on
accentuates what
defense,
Holland
right?
does better more than what X does better as X kind of starts to maybe decline a little and Holland starts to ascend.
that makes a lot of sense because if you look at the Buffalo Bills, they got Tre'Davious White. They were in no hurry whatsoever to bring him back, and he's a shutdown corner.
Yeah, he was just like the same. They just brought him back, I think, this week.
Yeah, and I'm thinking to myself, and everybody's, they're getting a shutdown cornerback. I'm like, I don't think it matters. Like their system is not really designed to have him be a shutdown corner. You know, they play a lot of zone. You know, and their system's predicated on Poyer and it used to be Hyde, but he's out for the year. And now Poyer, by the way, is also injured, and they don't know what his injury is about. It's his elbow. But, they're more focused on getting those safeties playing, off the hashes. So, yeah, maybe Miami's going to something very similar to that, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's going to be interesting for offenses because how many times do you see teams just in the middle of the year to say, we're going to run this kind of defense now? Not very often, unless you have like a coaching change or something, which we haven't.
And
so
one thing
that should be interesting for teams the next 4 weeks.
One thing that is interesting is that Josh Boyer and his availability. And by the way, kudos to the Dolphins and what they've done this year. Maybe it's because they have Mike McDaniel as the head coach and he allows his coordinators to speak once a week. But they have the coordinator day, which is every
Thursday?
Wednesday. It's
Wednesday?
Thursday. Yes, Thursdays, right. Yeah, because Wednesday is Tua's day. Yeah, Tua speaks on Wednesday. The coach and Tua speaks on Wednesday. Thursday, the team speaks, right? All the coaches speak. And man, Josh Boyer sits up there for 6, 7, 8 minutes and answers every single question and goes in depth. For 2 or 3 weeks, he's been talking about, you know what, we want to be multiple, we want to be, chameleon-like, adapt to each game plan, to each team separately. But sometimes, personnel doesn't allow us to do that. Well, they're making a pretty big change to go as multiple as they want to be, right?
Should be interesting to see.
But hasn't
I'm
that
sure
always
there'll be some
been,
growing pains?
But that's always been the New England MO, though. They always wanted to be able to just do whatever is necessary, depending on which team they're actually facing off against. And it seemed like they were doing that at least when Brian Flores was around, because the defense was always pretty solidly able to handle whatever was thrown at them.
Yeah, but they didn't against certain teams. Like, they didn't change their philosophy for Kansas City or for the Bills.
Or if you're talking about zero blitzing,
and
like
then they would get destroyed for it. They would get destroyed for it. Yeah. As New England does against the Bills. And I don't know that they played Kansas City recently, but just like New England, unless it's a rainstorm, unless it's a monsoon where they only throw the ball 3 times. Like they can't even come close.
Look at what happened in New England
affecting Josh Allen.
Look what happened to New England in the playoffs against the Bills.
Yeah,
they went in there with a completely arrogant defensive game plan. We're going to run everything that we run. We're going to play man,
and we're going to blitz. Annihilated.
And we're going to blitz from the slot. And the Bills never punted. They never punted. They scored touchdowns and field goals on every single drive the entire game. That was embarrassing.
That was embarrassing.
And they didn't score on one drive because they knelt on it. If not, they could have scored on every single drive of the entire game. So, it's exciting times. Like this is really, really exciting.
Should be interesting. The defense is going to be the most interesting thing to watch over the coming weeks.
Speaking of which, Chicago Bears. So the Chicago Bears are coming up. I believe we're going to Chicago, right? We're still on the road.
Yes. Correct. Still on the road.
That's going to be fun. I've been to Chicago a few times. Nice place. So what I'm going to go ahead and talk about here is that the Chicago Bears, they picked up one pretty good player, dumped 2 of their stars. Ironically enough, Robert Quinn, I don't know what happened to him. He suddenly became a star again, and they decided to move on from him. They traded him. So that was one defensive player down. And then they just went ahead and they traded Roquan Smith.
to the Ravens.
To the Ravens, but we don't have to deal with the Ravens anymore. We're done with them.
We might very well have to deal with the Ravens in the
Listen,
playoffs.
if we run into the Ravens again, Tua will just throw 6 touchdowns in the fourth quarter again, and we'll just blow right.
I don't know if we can rely on that.
And let me tell you one thing: a middle linebacker is the most useless thing that you can have against our.
Well, but Roquan Smith's been playing really well though. We have to be fair to him. He's really good player.
I'm glad we're not facing him. I mean,
he's a good player. He's a good player, but you're playing. If you're paying a guy who's and trust me, in today's game, Roquan Smith is pretty one-dimensional. Okay, he's an interior linebacker who's just going to be a fill backer. He's going to be a fill backer. He doesn't scrape too much to the ball. He doesn't rush the passer. Okay, he doesn't play too much in coverage. So you're going to pay that guy $15 million. You're doing it wrong. Okay, you got to beat Kansas City and you got to beat the Bills, and now you got to beat the Dolphins. And what do those 3 teams do? They throw the ball really, really well. You need people that can cover, not stop the run.
We got somebody. Dolphins going to get destroyed in the playoffs. Facts against 2.
I wonder who this is a fan of.
Yeah. Well, what are the facts?
What exactly?
Yeah,
I guess the facts are that Tua's not a superstar quarterback. Well, listen, he's going to have another chance to show what he can do. For what it's worth, the Chicago Bears, yes, they weakened their defense, but they added some extra firepower to their offense.
Extra firepower, which we saw a week and 2 days ago and had no problem handling.
Oh, I think this might be a Bears fan because they're talking about Roquan. Okay. So Roquan Smith, yeah, he's gone now, so he's not going to be an issue for the Dolphins. But Chase Claypool has just been added to the Bears offense, and I think he's like immediately their best wide receiver on that whole roster. So it's going to be interesting to see because Justin Fields is kind of like, this is what the Dolphins need to do, is that they're going to run into another one of their old weaknesses, the running quarterback, right? This is the thing that's been eating away at them for years now. Justin Fields can run and he will run. So
yeah, but that's a weakness from like 2018. Like that
that's not. I don't think that's really a weakness.
Lamar Jackson still burned them for a lot of yards.
He burned them one time for one really big run.
And that was because they missed the run fit, and they completely blew a run fit. The previous year, they completely smashed Lamar Jackson. They also limited Josh Allen as well.
Yeah, I don't want to dismiss
by making him not run.
I don't want to dismiss Justin Fields and his talent. I mean, he is very talented. He
needs his own Mike McDaniel.
Yeah, he is really quick, but I'm not. I don't think it's as much of a weakness as it's been in the past. As far as the running quarterback, I don't fear it as much as I have before. Should be interesting to see though how much, if any, snaps. I'm sure Chubb will get some snaps, maybe some third down stuff. I don't know. What do you think, Alf, as far as that goes?
Yeah, no, I think that Bradley Chubb's going to play the whole game. I think he's going to be
interesting.
Yeah, he's gonna play plenty. The Bears, they're an interesting team to prepare for because they're kind of old school. We're talking like this is a throwback to like the 90s, the early 90s, late 80s. Like their defense is a lot weaker. Okay.
Well, yeah, they just dumped their best pass rusher and their best linebacker. So
yeah, they dumped 2 of their best defensive players. So they give up points like crazy as of late. Okay. I would say, if you look at their offensive style, it's a lot of play action. They run the ball. They're a very good running team. But they run it with Khalil Herbert, who's a really good player, David Montgomery, and then Justin Fields with some design runs. They're very a run-centric team. This is a team that you could actually get in there with maybe even, big nickel, which is 3 safeties, okay, and 2 linebackers, and kind of neutralize them that way. Just play with a lot of gap integrity. Don't try to get outflanked, But I just don't see where they, how they could keep up here. Like if you score
right on paper, there's no reason. There's just like with the Lions game. There is
like
no
on
reason
paper,
why the Dolphins shouldn't wreck them.
On paper, you could see the path. The path is then have to run it a lot and keep the Dolphin offense off the field, right?
That's going to be that'll definitely. I was just thinking that. That's going to be their
and then
plan.
you're thinking about, okay, are they going to get good, good weather for the Bears?
Looks like it. Last I checked, it's supposed to be really nice weather.
Yeah, because I was earlier in the week. I was reading like it might rain and then 60 degrees. Maybe. But if it's going to start clearing up,
the perfect recipe for Tua having a rotten game is what we are implying here.
Well,
Oh yeah, like last year's Tennessee game. Ugh.
Yeah, with the rain and all that. So I guess that was their path, but man, I just don't see it. Remember that, this is not the idiots that we had running our offense last year. Okay, this is
All
Mike
three of them.
McDaniel. Okay, this is a guy that his offense travels. All right,
And it
his
did
offense
start,
is very
it did start
chameleon-like.
running. It did start raining pretty good in that Detroit game, and it did not affect Tua in the offense like at all. Like you couldn't even tell that it was. Yeah. So.
What you talking about in the Steeler game or
the
Lions was
game?
It? No, in the Lions game, it started raining. I don't know if anybody noticed that. Couldn't really see when you were watching
inside the stadium.
But no, I'm sorry. The chat. I'm sorry.
Oh, so it was the Steelers.
The Steelers game, but you could see that, and it didn't really affect Tua. Like he was still slinging the ball around. So
it was slinging
because the second I saw it raining, I was like, oh no.
When did it start raining though?
It was later in the game.
Second half.
Yeah, but I was watching
move the ball.
I was watching Tua when it was raining just to see if he would, let's see how he throws the ball. Let's see how he looks. It looked the same, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But I don't even think it's supposed to rain.
Look, I don't buy none of that bullshit. Okay, last year when it was a torrential rainstorm and all hell was breaking loose in Tennessee, Tua threw an absolute strike for 55 yards to Jalen Waddle. Okay. So I don't buy any of that shit. The only thing I do buy is cold weather because Tua's never played in it. Like, if
Lions have artificial rain now. I deserve that.
Yeah, if Tua's gonna, Tua's never played like in 20-degree weather when it's ice cold and it's snowing and it's miserable outside. He's never played in that. That's the only thing that I would look into.
He's probably gonna play in it in December against the Bills.
That's what I'm interested in seeing. Okay. But as far as rain, he's the quarterback for the Miami Dolphins. Like he practices in the rain all the time. It's about time he gets used to it. Like look. What was it? A year ago, he had that awful practice in a downpour where he threw 5 picks. Well, this year he had a couple of practices where it was raining like hell, and he actually played well. So
yeah, and it rained in Hawaii and it rained in Tuscaloosa. So
yeah, so I think that he's gotten used to that. I think I would look forward to the cold weather games. Those are
we just need like a warm electric blanket for him to wear when he's out on the Bills sideline. Is that what we're doing here?
Yeah, or we could complain to OSHA and have him close the stadium before our game in December.
Give the sun a steroid shot. Mm-hmm. It's like we need you here, dude. All right. So let's do the thing that Ron hates so much, but I'm going to make him do it again anyway. Do you know what it is? Do you know what time it is, Ron?
I know what time it is.
Okay. So go ahead. You do the 3 things. Go ahead. Give it to us.
All right. So my underrated player, I guess, player that's going to kind of come back down to reality a little bit.
Ron.
I think, yeah.
Flip that around.
What do you mean flip that around?
You said underrated.
Oh, yeah, you're right. The overrated player.
Thank you.
See how confusing it is? I've been doing it for like 10 weeks. I still don't know it. So the overrated player, I think that now with Chubb there, I think you're not going to see Melvin Ingram much. He's just going to be there. He's just going to be barely there, barely noticeable anymore, which he's kind of almost become that a little bit anyway. So I'll go with him. The underrated player, I think that Jeff Wilson's going to get right in on this. I think they're gonna start throwing it to him. They're gonna start like McDaniel's been chomping at the bit to do the one thing in the offense he hasn't been able to do all year, and that's throw the ball to a back out of the backfield.
He can still do it. He just doesn't. Okay.
No, he's gonna do it because he's gonna trust Wilson. Wilson's gonna be able to get right in there. And MVP. MVP. That's tough. I'm gonna go Cater Kohu, Darth Cater. I think he's gonna have a really nice game.
MVP means he's the best player on the field, Ron.
Yep. I think he's gonna have a really big game. He's gonna be super noticeable.
I'll go next. I'll tell you that what is it? The overrated first?
Overrated player. Who's gonna have a drop
off?
I
think it's gonna be Emmanuel Ogbah. Look, they're not letting on. He's injured. Okay. You can watch him on tape today. I watched the game again. I tried to see what they were doing differently in the second half where they shut out the Detroit Lions. First of all, it was only three 3 possessions in the second half. Okay, so it wasn't that many. Emmanuel Ogba looks injured. Okay, he looks like he's hurting. All right, he's laboring. Okay, so I don't think he's going to be much of a factor. I don't know if he'll play too much. Okay, I think he needs a rest soon. I think they need to find a look. They're going to need him against.
This is perfect timing then to bring in Bradley Chubb because he can basically say, "Okay, you have a sit. I'll go ahead and take it from here."
Yeah, I would say so. Okay, as far as overrated, I tend to agree with that Jeff Wilson thing, man. But
the underrated guy, yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? But I'm gonna go with a different one. I think Gesicki's gonna have a monster game, his first of the year.
Yeah. He popped in my head for like half a second.
But then you realize every time you do that, he's wrong.
Yeah.
He has 4 touchdowns this year, right? That's right? He has 4.
Yeah.
Yes. Who catches passes?
He had 1 in one game, 2 in another game, and 1 this past week.
Okay. I think he's gonna have a monster game against the Bears. The Bears have issues guarding tight ends. They just traded Roquan. So I think Roquan, if he was going to matter at all in this game plan against the Dolphins, was that in those hook drops that he does at middle linebacker, he can take away a lot of those throwing lanes to Gesicki, okay, especially over the middle. That doesn't exist anymore. I think Gesicki's going to have a monster game. And MVP, I think Bradley Chubb is going to have a couple of sacks in this game.
So
man, that'd be exciting.
Like no time. It doesn't need any time to install. He just jumps right in and starts wrecking Justin Fields.
Yeah, he's gonna come in with a lot of motivation. It's gonna have like an atmosphere to it, and Justin Fields, he tends to give himself up a lot because he doesn't want to take a lot of hits. So, he's gonna face a little pressure, and I think Bradley Chubb's gonna have a pretty nice game in his debut.
Okay, then that's interesting. So I'll do mine now. The my underrated player. You know what? I will go ahead and say the underrated player is going to be Kader Kohou, because, like you said, Xavier Howard is obviously the best corner on the team, but Kader Kohou, even though I'm not willing to say that he's going to be a clear-cut number 2 corner next season, I'm going to say that he's doing a pretty fantastic job. Like, he's done it. He's been consistently good all year. I'm not willing to go ahead and jump in and say, oh yeah, he's definitely going to be the starter that I'm willing to count on for an entire 2-3 years at that position. Not yet. I need more. I need to see more of him before I'm willing to go that far into it. But he has been doing a fantastic job, and I think he's going to do another fantastic job on Sunday. My overrated player, I guess I'm unfortunately, as much as it pains me to say it, I'm just going to have to say Raheem Mostert, because if Jeff Wilson's going to be your underrated, that means that Mostert has to have to take a little bit of a back seat. So
see, he does it. That's the point. It's a part of the offense that's just missing. It's just not there. It's not I think that's what you keep getting insulted by, us wanting another running back, thinking because we don't like Mostert. No, we're missing a part of the offense we have not been able to do. And now we will be able to.
I just don't buy that Mostert can't catch passes. He literally caught a pass for a touchdown.
It's just not. He's not going to be as solid at it as Wilson. Watch. You'll see.
Right.
It's going to work out.
There's enough player for this.
We have an entire fantasy football squad on the Miami Dolphins. There's enough to go around for everybody.
Yeah, well, MVP for this game. MVP is Tyreek Hill again. Sorry, every week I'm just going to pick Tyreek Hill
for everybody but Cedric Wilson.
Cedric Wilson is so useless, man. I'm so mad. We paid him money and he's doing nothing. He just does nothing.
Well, you never know. I mean, it might change over.
He did a decent punt return. I'll give him that.
Yeah, he's our punt returner. Yeah, there you go.
It's we had to give him something to do.
Hey, Alf, I know we're getting ready to wrap up. Have you noticed a few times, and I'm kind of starting to tee off on it, which makes me nervous, because I'm if I'm teeing off on it as an amateur watching on TV, then why aren't the defensive coaches on the other side teeing off on it? Sometimes they'll show Waddle or Hill after a big catch, right? And then you'll notice they're off the field, on the sideline together, and they've got a package where they have it was Craycraft and Sherfield, but this time it was Sanders and Sherfield and then Gesicki. You know what I mean? Have you noticed that? And they kind of look like oh, they're just gonna run the ball or throw something like that, and then they just like throw it like down in the middle of the field or whatever. Have you noticed them doing that? They've done that a few times now with that package. Like,
Yeah,
they
let me
take
say,
out their two best wide receivers, but they're still throwing the ball. I
yeah,
think
I
it's
think
funny.
I think it's look, they have great look. Go look at the snaps that Waddle and Tyreek Hill. There's a reason those guys are having big numbers. They're kept fresh.
Yeah.
Okay, there was a stat. Look, last night, Joe Burrow was playing against the Cleveland Browns, and this is the first game that he was starting without Jamar Chase, right? So they had a stat. Joe Burrow has played a total of 20 snaps without Jamar Chase since last year. That's insane. Okay, we've had games where Tua has gone 20 snaps without Tyreek Hill in a game. Okay, so they keep those guys fresh, and I always love it when they do that. And they did it twice in the Detroit game, where Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, they catch a couple of passes, so they're off in the bench getting a rest, and in comes Sherfield, and in comes Gesicki, and in comes Craycraft, or this time it was Braylon Sanders, and then boom, they hit another pass, and then now Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are back. So I love it. And
do you think the defense will start to key off on that, or do you think they'll start to do some other things?
Well, the thing is that
package?
the defense is so far like, okay, they're running it here, so let's sell out for the run. And then they get hit by a pass, right?
But they should. I mean, if they've seen enough film, like I said, if I'm like Ron Caniff Schmo dude at home with my Cheetos, knowing, oh, they're gonna throw it to Sanders. Watch, like I literally said that. Like you would think a professional defensive coordinator.
Yeah, but now you know what you do. Now you
out.
bring those guys in and you run the ball.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You think they're gonna switch it up? Do some?
Yeah, there's always a
there?
counter. There's always a counter.
Well, I'll go ahead and I'll bring this. Speaking of counters, our viewer LaShonda brought up how this is how they're eventually going to end up playing Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle to shut down the offense for the rest of the season.
They've already tried that. Like
teams
have already tried to do that.
Yeah.
They get smoked.
Yeah. Is there a specific game that happened?
Yeah, the Bills tried it and they gave up a 50-yard bomb on 3rd and 22 and lost the game because of it. So
there you go.
And then the Ravens spent the entire last quarter of the game
trying to
play too deep and trying to play quarters, and then they got
Tua threw 4 touchdowns against it. Yeah, you can't play that defense.
No,
it doesn't. No. It doesn't work.
You got to do what the Steelers did, and then you got to hope that we drop passes.
I understand when you turn on the TV and you watch highlights of the Dolphins, they show just the big passes over the top. There's a lot of other things going on that make up that 29 other completion or 27 other completions that happen, and a lot of that stuff is underneath when they try and run that type of defense on us. It's just there's just so many different things they can do, and McDaniel he really is good at putting the players in a good position. I don't want to use the word genius. It's been overused, but he's a genius.
No, he is very much. All right. Okay. Let's do our predictions here, folks. So how's this Sunday going to go down?
Alf, you go first.
Okay. I think it'll be a boring affair, and I think we're going to get highly efficient Tua. That's what he is. He'll be highly efficient Tua. They'll lean on the running game a little bit more. I think with Jeff Wilson, now they can trust 2 running backs instead of just 1. Okay, that was part of the problem. All right. Like you saw Edmonds get into the game against the Lions. He got a couple of carries, and you could see that Mike McDaniel was like he was hoping to get rid of him. All right.
Yeah.
And then he had the game against the Steelers where they gave Edmonds that toss, and I think it was Devin Bush barely touched him, and he went down after an 11-yard run. That should have been a 40-yard run.
Yeah, he doesn't break tackles at all. I've been I'm gonna pat myself on the back. I've been complaining about Edmonds and the fact that you can tackle him with a finger since week 1. I've noticed that was an issue with him.
Yeah, so I'm gonna I'll make a bold prediction. Dolphins will run for 200 yards on Sunday, and they'll win the game.
That's a boring affair, Alf.
Yeah, because they're not going to throw for 400. They're not going to throw for. So I say, look, I'll give you all the stats. If you want all the stats, I'll give you all the stats. Tua will throw for 241 yards.
That is boring.
But they'll run for 202 and score 27 points. And
that's not boring to me. That means they're running roughshod over these guys.
27-13 Miami.
That's not boring game, but okay. I guess your definition of boring and mine don't coincide. That sounds like fun to me.
Nah, exciting is 45 passes. That's exciting.
And no, just a game where we don't absolutely get a heart attack every single game. That for me would be exciting. I'll do mine. I'm inclined to agree to a certain extent. I think running the ball is going to be very important, especially since now they don't have Roquan Smith in the middle there. They're not going to have nearly as a strong of a run defense there. So quite frankly, I feel like they're going to be able to run all over they're going to be able to run all over the Bears. So I think that 200 yards is feasible. I don't think they'll get there because I still think they still want to funnel this offense through Tua to some extent. But I will say that I think the Dolphins can definitely put up at least another 30 points this game. I don't see a reason why they can't. The only reason that they wouldn't is if it's the dreaded trap game that everybody has been waiting for, the game where they should have easily won and then they somehow ended up losing, unless we want to say that was the Jets game, in which case we have already had our trap.
They already had the trap game. It was the Detroit Lions game.
Yeah,
they were down 21-7.
That was marked as the trap game. Like before the season started, everybody said, "Oh, they might lose that game." Which I mean, we did almost lose it, but we won.
No, we did. We almost within the first 10 minutes. Like everybody who had said that the game was over already, I was like, the game just started. Give him some time.
This is why I take my phone and I literally this year now turn it
and by the way,
off
can I just say
during
this
the game? I don't want to hear text and all that crap.
I need to say this real quick. Everybody needs to lay the hell off of Braylon Sanders. Like this poor kid has been getting destroyed because he made a good catch and then he got pounded into the ground and he fumbled. I'm like, Jalen Waddle fumbled how many times though?
Yeah, but you gotta understand all these people, and we talked about this on the podcast tonight. You gotta understand these people on Twitter are stupid, all right? They're idiots. Okay? He didn't want to fumble, all right? He didn't bet on the Lions. He didn't wake up that morning and say, you know what? It'd be really cool on my first play as an NFL player if I just fumble the fucking ball. You know what I mean? That'd be really cool. He didn't want to fumble, all right? That's why Mike McDaniel... That's why, my favorite moment of Mike McDaniel so far has been, and that hasn't been any of these jokes in press conferences, although he's really entertaining, it was when he was asked about that play. And he said, sometimes the best thing to say is nothing at all. Because he already feels, bad enough as it is. So what? You got to go make him feel worse? You know what I mean? Like, how is that helpful? The guy just fumbled on his first NFL play after he made a nice catch. And he made a nice play on a good route, on a great pass, and he fumbles. And what? You're gonna go? Okay, and again, he already feels terrible, so you gotta go make him feel worse.
It's not like he fumbles like, oh, he just got a little love tap and then he dropped the ball and he had to try to jump on it.
No, he got smacked. He got
pounded. Like that sort of stuff happens, man. Like, and again, I point out Jalen Waddle. How many times does he fumbled twice?
And let me tell you one thing, right? Mike McDaniel will get more out of his players because of something like that than if he went and he got into his face and he destroyed his confidence. Because you go in his face and you make him feel worse than he already does. You think that he's going to help you later on in the game when you throw him a ball?
No, he's going to be numb in his head and it's gone.
Yeah,
he's gone.
His confidence is going to be completely gone. So. That's just stupid.
It's like
trust me, these people don't want to fumble. All right, they're not trying to fumble.
Although it is telling that Braylon Sanders is getting snaps over Cedric Wilson. Just going to point that out.
Yeah, I mean it's about understanding the offense, and clearly Wilson just doesn't yet to a level that they're.
Are we talking about Cedric Wilson or Eric Ezukanma?
Yeah, well, same thing. It's why Cedric Wilson can't get on the field and Ezukanma can't even get on the active roster. And they won't until they know that they can do the things that they want them to do.
Yeah, Mike McDaniel is very, very clear about that. He says that he's the head coach, but he likes to think that he has like 10 different head coaches on the team. That he wanted head coaches for each unit. So until Wes Welker says he's ready, then he's not ready. So
it's kind of wild though that Tyreek and Jalen and all these other guys, even Braylon Sanders apparently, was able to pick it up already. What's holding back Eric Ezukanma? Is he just kind of like a very standardized wide receiver? I don't know what's holding him back.
Precision and sharpness. Like if he's asked to run a 12-yard dig, they want a 12-yard dig. They don't want a 9-yard dig. They don't want a 13-yard dig. They don't want a 14-yard dig. They want a 12-yard dig because Tua Tagovailoa is expecting a 12-yard dig, and he's throwing it for a 12-yard dig.
Tua doesn't throw the ball to players. He throws it to spots. Tua doesn't watch the offensive players. He watches the defensive players. So the offensive players have to be where they're supposed to be. Because Tua's going to throw it to that spot.
Tua watches leverage, and he throws away from the leverage.
That's what good quarterbacks do.
Yes.
That's what smart quarterbacks do.
That's why that was a touchdown with Gesicki. And that was why it was such a smart play. And Dan Orlovsky and Ryan Clark were talking about that play, and they were
Emmanuel Acho.
And Emmanuel Acho was talking about that play because it was so smart, because Tua was throwing away from the leverage, and he was throwing where Gesicki could even protect himself, which was right in between the eights. Right in between the eights, he put the ball right there. He throws it to the right, he gets killed. He throws it to the left, it might get batted down or maybe even intercepted if the guy makes a really good play. So where do you have to put it? Right into his chest, in between the 8 and the 8, and that's where the ball went.
And you imagine too, like these guys, they've only been, they've only had since what, April, right? March or April to start to, let's just say probably May when OTA started, right? To really start to understand this. It's amazing how far that this offense has come in the short amount of time. It's exciting. It really is.
We've read about it. We've talked about this offense, and most coaches think that this offense takes about 2 years to master, really, for a quarterback and for running backs and for offensive line.
Even Brett Favre, and it's a different offense, but he was just talking about the West Coast offense in general. Brett Favre was like, man, that's like the hardest offense I ever had to learn. Like when I had to do the West Coast offense, that was really difficult. That's Hall of Fame Brett Favre. You know what I mean? So it made me nervous when I saw him say that too. I was like, oh boy, how long is this going to take? Boy, it hasn't taken long. Tua has really gotten a hold of it. And a lot of these players have gotten a hold of it very quick, which goes to show you that McDaniel doesn't only have a good offense, he's a really good teacher.
Yeah.
Right. And he has good teachers coaching for him.
I never actually did give my prediction, did I? Okay. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and say this. Dolphins win 33, and they only give up maybe 20 points maximum. That's what I'm going to say. Ron, you're up.
Oh, okay. I should have had all this time to think about it. I'll say it's a little closer. 28-23.
Any particular reason how the
Miami.
Bears score so much?
Oh, I just think maybe, just some adjustments with the defense and everything. Just some things we're going to be making some adjustments. Adjustments means mistakes sometimes. So.
Okay, fair enough. Just some final thoughts. We are not getting Kareem Hunt, Alex M. With the trade deadline has come and gone. Unless the Browns cut him, he's not going anywhere.
I'll give you a little preview. Free agency. Watch Kareem Hunt go out there and ask for a pile of money, and then watch Miami sign him for like $6 million a year for like 1 year.
Well, why sign Kareem Hunt when we can go get Duke Johnson again? I want Duke Johnson back. That was fun for the 1 year.
He's on the Bills practice squad, and they're going to use him eventually.
If he's there on the practice. He's on the practice squad. Really? He's not on the active roster.
Yep.
Yeah, he's on the Bills.
Oh my god!
Squad.
I would have just snagged him. It's like sign him the active roster. Boom. And we don't even need to trade for the other.
Apparently,
guy.
he doesn't fit what they want.
Jeez.
Yeah, no, and I do a Bills podcast every single week, and they're flabbergasted on why that guy's not on the active roster. Although they did trade. Look, they got Naheem Hines today, but they traded away Zach Moss, right? So I guess Hines replaces Zach Moss. So they're back in. They did the same thing that we did actually. They kept Devin Singletary as their top guy. We kept Mostert, and then they replaced Zach Moss with Naheem Hines, and we replaced Edmonds with Jeff Wilson.
Nobody is a beast for the Bills in the running game. They don't have a running game. You know who the beast for the running game is for the Bills?
Josh
Allen.
Josh Allen.
He's the beast for the running game. They have some decent running backs, but they've never been able to put together a running game. If anything's going to cost the Bills from not going to the Super Bowl, winning the Super Bowl again, it'll probably be that.
Mm-hmm.
Duke Johnson has been underrated his whole career, man.
He has.
The only time he's really gotten a chance to show off was with the Dolphins.
And I can't get excited about last year's flash in the pan players. I'm excited about this year's studs. I'm not worried about Duke, sorry, just because he played for the U, No offense to any of the U fans.
If they need a running back next year, I would not
I'm not worried
hesitate
about
to
next
bring him
year.
back.
We signed Wilson.
Remember, the
we
offseason
signed
is my
Wilson
favorite time. My
especially
offseason is
for
my
this
favorite
year.
time because this is when I get to play Madden. Remember, that's how
That's when you
that's
play
just how my
Madden.
brain works.
Well, we'll play Madden in a special episode of Pulse of Fins Nation. You know, when we're bored in the middle of the off season next year.
I think that look. I think the Dolphin fans, if you go on Twitter and you look at they're not used to this. Like they don't know what they're doing. I'm used to it. Okay?
I'm not used to it.
I'm used to it. Okay, I remember the early '90s when they went out and they got Keith Jackson, and that was the move to get him over the
Ingram
top.
and Fryer and Keith Byers.
I remember all those moves. Okay, that was going to
that-
get him over the top, and they went deep in the playoffs. They went to an
Yeah.
AFC Championship game. They went to the second round of the playoffs twice. You know, so they were making runs. That's what they're doing now.
Man,
like
the
this
year
is a
that we
Super
really
Bowl.
missed out was the year that Marino went out and got hurt.
Yeah.
That was going to be a good year.
Welcome to the Miami Dolphins Super Bowl window. It's 3 years. It's this year and the next 2 seasons. Enjoy it. Okay, try to make a run at it.
Yeah, we got to do it. There, you know what? I give the team credit and Greer credit. They're trying. They really are trying. It may work, may not, but they are trying. They are making moves as if they feel like they have a shot this year, next year. They really are.
That star power for you, like you said earlier. Alrighty, so looks like that's going to be it for now. We've done our player picks. We've done our predictions for the game. By the way, if anybody's wondering, apparently we're having a running tally of the Phillies game. If you're a Philadelphia Phillies fan, you can. Apparently they're up 4-0. Yeah. Who are they playing? Is this the World Series? Is this finally?
It's the World Series. Yeah, it's 1-1 right now. Well, the series is tied 1-1. So looks like Phillies might take it. Take this game.
That's how much I've moved on from baseball. I didn't even know the World Series was happening.
Don't tell Manny that. He's a big Marlins.
Listen, man, that last Jeffrey Loria fire sale absolutely destroyed the Marlins fan to me. Like I was done. Like
Alf, how many screens do you have? Man, I see you like looking over here, looking over there. It's like you got 5 screens, man.
He's got the evil villain flare. He's like surrounded on all sides.
Maybe I'll show you. Okay.
Can you? Is it possible?
Yeah.
Here we go. It's like a tour of the Arteaga.
Your computer.
Okay. Yeah,
you got screens going.
There's one, right? And then if you turn it around, I have 2 more here. You see it?
Okay. Yeah.
And there was the other one right below, right next to underneath the TV. So that's 4, right?
Yeah. So
okay, I was wondering because I see you looking in different spots.
So you had the Heat game on one TV. You got the Phillies over here. You got Dolphins film review over here, and then you have right here our show.
Yeah, actually, I have from one laptop. I'll show you exactly what I have right now. Actually, I had to put the Heat game on. I forgot about that. I got Beyond Oak Island on one, right? I have some work stuff here on the other one. I got a Tyreek Hill interview on another one, and I have some film stuff on the other side.
What's the Tyreek Hill interview so we can go check it out?
On WSVN 7 Sports Extra. That's the local Fox affiliate.
That's an interview with Tyreek Hill on all the time.
And Tyreek Hill's on a beach somewhere, which is obviously he has a house on the beach, I guess.
He was playing Fortnite when he got the news.
I want to squad up with Tyreek Hill.
Chubb.
I want to find Tyreek Hill on Fortnite and either team up with him or try to shoot him down. That's what I want to do.
That's funny.
Yeah.
All right. But no, I'm gonna have to visit the Arteaga lair at one point because I feel like I could learn football just by walking through the door.
Hey, we go visit Al's house and then we go to that restaurant we go to. What's it called?
Oh, Latin America.
Yeah,
you've been there, Alf. You must have gone at least.
You've been to Latin America. That place is amazing. That's the first place I ever ate black beans in my life. I was like, I'm gonna eat these because Lewis's mom said they're good, and I want to be respectful. And I was like, oh my god, these are so good. And then I had that Cuban coffee, and I thought my heart was gonna.
Oh, wait a minute! I just noticed fifth screen right here as a tablet.
Okay, there you go.
There you go,
Alf. Anybody who's hanging around, I'm glad you're listening to us ramble because this is what we do when the camera is usually.
Yeah, this is
off.
like our after show when we usually shut the camera off.
You've lived in Miami-Dade all your life, right?
Yeah.
Were you ever around for when KFC had their flan? Do you remember that?
I remember that they came out with it once. Yes.
Yes.
I remember.
And I swear to God, it is the best flan I have ever been able to find. I swear to you, I've gone to Cuban restaurants. I've tried it. I've gone to KFC and I'm like, this is better than the regular Cuban restaurants. Like the rumor is that there was this little old lady who would make the flan and then they would give it out to KFC and they would sell it out. And they stopped carrying the flan. It's not there anymore. So I can't help but wonder if
passed away.
Yeah.
KFC got rid of so many good things. Like, do you remember the chicken? The Chicken Little was one of the best things ever invented. Okay. Now I do my own for Sunday football games. Like I do my own Chicken Littles. Okay. And it comes out awesome. All right.
What is a Chicken Little? I don't even know what that is.
It's a little tiny chicken sandwich. That's all it is.
Oh, it's like a chicken slider.
Yeah, it's like a chicken slider, but spicy. That's it. That's all it is.
So it's like every other chicken sandwich in the world.
But little. Okay. Little. You know, it's usually a sweet bread with spicy chicken, lettuce, mayonnaise. That's it.
That sounds
This is the Pulse of Fins Nation, ladies and gentlemen. We also think about food.
Yeah, I got a roast beef sandwich.
But and then they got rid of their 20-piece wings, remember? And then they raised the price of it.
Well, yeah, I don't go to KFC anymore, but it's like I took Chad. Ron, I don't know if I remember if I took you or not, but I took Chad to KFC. I told him I'm going to get you the best flan ever, Chad.
No,
I didn't. We drove him up to KFC, and he was like, "What are we doing here?" It's like I thought we just had dinner.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. If I had come down to South Florida, when I come down to South Florida, you were like, "Oh, let's try this awesome thing," and you took me to KFC, I'd be kind of insulted. That's like taking like, "Oh, I was gonna go to Paris and let me get some McDonald's." No, but you took me to the right place in Latin America because now we've been there a couple times now.
No. Oh, Javier says, "Remember the donut sandwich?"
Where was the donut sandwich?
I think that
was that at KFC. That sounds.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, there was a place in Las Vegas. It's still there, by the way. It's called the Heart Attack Grill. They
Run
make
by Paula Dean.
I don't know what it is. I don't know who the hell runs it, but I saw their menu once and I looked at it, and one of their menu items almost actually did give me a heart attack as I read it, because it was a glazed donut. They cut it in half, put a double cheeseburger in it with bacon.
Ron's looking it up, isn't he?
I was just looking up the Heart Attack Grill. Yeah. Las Vegas, Nevada. That's funny.
The Chad Johnson special. That's what it is, really.
Yeah.
Well, Chad Johnson. I don't know how Chad Johnson does what he does.
Okay? Yeah, how he eats like that and stays in the kind of shape.
And that's nothing. I saw. If you want to see weird things that athletes can do at one time, I forgot who it was. Man, it was a wide receiver who used to play for the Dolphins. I'm trying to think of his. He was really.
Can you give me
athletic.
an era, and I'll just name off some names?
It was the 90s. It was Jimmy Johnson was there. They had a really athletic wide receiver, man.
Aronde Gadsden.
Chambers? No, Chambers wasn't there.
Not Chambers, not Gadsden, not OJ McDuffie.
Yatil Green.
Not Yatil Green. Man, I'm trying to think of the.
Man, I can't remember the receivers we had when Jimmy Johnson was there.
They had a really. Tony Martin. Tony Martin.
Tony Martin. I remember that name.
Yeah. I was at a Hooters one time, and Tony Martin was there with several other Dolphins. And at the time, I knew one of the waitresses, and I was talking to her, and I wanted to send over like a pitcher of beer because they were drinking beer. So I sent over a pitcher of beer, and then she was telling me, "I don't know how that guy can eat what he's eating." And I'm like, "What guy?" I'm like, "That guy right there." And I'm like, "Tony Martin?" And she's like, "Yeah, the skinny guy." And I'm like, "Okay, why? What does he eat?" And he was like, "He ordered 3 double cheeseburgers." And I'm thinking to myself, "Wait a minute, Tony Martin ordered 3 double. Are you sure it wasn't for his friends?" He's like, "No, they ordered like 50 wings." And then he said, "I just need 3 double cheeseburgers with no lettuce on them." And
like the one vegetable in the whole thing is just like, "No, I don't want it."
It's nuts.
And I'm thinking to myself, how the hell can he eat 3 double? And remember, it's a restaurant double cheeseburger. It's not like going to get a double at like McDonald's. I can sit down, I could do it. Like it's too much food, but you could probably sit down and eat 3 doubles from Wendy's. You know, you're gonna be sick. But
yeah, maybe. Yeah.
But maybe you could do it. Like maybe if you starve yourself, like you don't eat nothing for like 24 hours. You know, you go for lunch because you eat at night, forget it. You're probably gonna put yourself in the hospital. But like you starve yourself for like 24 hours, and for lunch, go have 3 doubles from Wendy's. You could probably do it. But who the hell eats 3 doubles at a restaurant?
I mean, we saw Cameron Wake's diet. Like, but he ate well, but he ate.
Oh, he ate well.
everything in
He would eat salad with no dressing.
No, but yeah, but he would eat
dry
everything
salad,
in sight, man. Like he would eat and eat and eat and eat. Like, oh my God, where does it go?
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the kind of stuff we talk about sommes. It's just, but you know what?
It's usually never on the show.
Yeah, it's never.
Oh yeah, I talked about this. I talked about this on the podcast tonight.
Really?
I looked it up. No, what I'm going to tell you right now is what I talked about on the podcast. I looked it up today. Westgate, MGM, BetMGM, Westgate. What's the other one? Caesars. They all pulled the Dolphins from their odds board for the Super Bowl. Okay.
Really?
Meaning that they're gonna recalculate.
They're gonna recalculate.
Yeah, because I guess too much money started coming in on them to win the Super Bowl.
Oh,
but that's not the great thing. The great thing is that Andy Slater had a tweet earlier. Maybe you could look for it. He posted the airfares from Miami to Phoenix for Super Bowl weekend. They tripled today. Tripled. It was $323 to go from Miami to Phoenix on American Airlines. Now it's $983.
I'm pulling it up now just so everybody can see what Alpha's talking about.
That's funny. That's interesting. I mean, it doesn't, nobody can predict the future, but it's just interesting to see the trend the team is on. We haven't been on a trend like that for a long time. Oh, wow. Yep. Round trip flights from South Florida to Phoenix on Super Bowl weekend, American 968 Spirit. There you go.
Yeah.
So basically everybody's like, oh, the Dolphins might actually be a thing now.
I mean, we're a good team. I mean, I don't know where it goes from here. I still think Kansas City and Buffalo are better, but we're a really good team.
When Vegas starts acknowledging your existence,
yeah,
you've made it.
Yeah, well, because they'd calculated us low originally, I'm sure. I mean, honestly, in the AFC, there's Kansas City and Buffalo, but we're just as good as any other team you could say in the AFC, in my opinion.
No, we can beat anybody.
I think we're better.
We can beat anybody.
Yeah, we're the third best team in the AFC, and that's objectively speaking. And I can. You can't accuse me of being a homer. I'll tell you, I'll be completely honest with you. Because if I was a homer, I'd say that they were the best team because they beat the Bills already. Yeah. I think to be the best team, you got to beat the Bills in Buffalo. In December. Now,
yep.
I will tell you this: they go to Buffalo and they beat Buffalo in Buffalo. They're winning the fucking Super Bowl.
Yeah,
right?
I agree.
Right,
I agree. If they do that, they're winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah, like if you want an early indicator, hey, this team is winning the Super Bowl. They go to Buffalo to beat Buffalo. They're winning the Super Bowl.
Hard to believe. Okay. Hard to think anything else. I mean, the offense was really firing on all cylinders against in the cold. By the way, in the cold, it's very important. The one last isn't that like the one last shred of hope all the Tua haters are hanging on to? When it gets cold, he'll suck.
Yeah, exactly. and then the Tua haters are gonna all shit their pants as we run the ball 45 times with Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson. And win in 10-degree weather like the 49ers did last year in Green Bay.
Mm-hmm.
Last I checked, the 49ers are not a cold weather team. They're from San Francisco.
Nope.
Like it gets cool there, in December. It doesn't get cold. Okay, and they went to Green Bay in freezing cold weather and ran it up and down the field. They hardly threw it. How many passes did Jimmy G throw that day? What was it, 11?
Yeah, it wasn't a lot. It was a low number.
Was that last year you said it was?
Yeah, last year. Look at the stats from that game. How many passes Jimmy G threw?
Let's see. Let me take a quick looky. Wait, are we talking about the same game, September 26, 2021?
No, it was in the playoffs. That was
a playoff game.
Okay, yeah.
In January.
Wait, Garoppolo threw 40 passes in that game. Let me try another one. Hold on. Okay,
no,
January.
We're talking
2nd.
about the playoffs.
January 22nd. Okay, he threw the ball 19 times.
19 times?
Yep, and he
more than I thought.
He only completed 11 of them, and he threw an interception.
And they won.
Which only, by the way, though, that only just makes me even more insulted that everybody was saying that Tua is like the ceiling is Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, really? Jimmy Garoppolo is your ceiling? Go try again.
Yeah, well, he's already better than Garoppolo.
He's better than all the quarterbacks. Everybody.
He's a top 10 quarterback. Heading towards top 5, but he's a top
10 playing like top 5. That's what.
All I will say is this: we finally got to see Joe Burrow, like the rest of us, without his weapons, look really ordinary.
And he looks human, right?
Yeah. The debate on Herbert versus Tua, that's now officially open. Now will it close? Not. It'll close like 10 years from now. It'll close like 10 years from now. We could probably say, yeah, this guy or that guy was better. If I had to guess, I think when both of those guys' careers are over, both are going to say, you know what, they're both good.
What a draft class, right, for quarterbacks?
Yeah, it was a generational class. I really do believe. Now I have a hard time seeing Herbert win a Super Bowl. I really do. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's Phillip Rivers, isn't
Wasn't
he?
that
They
always his
drafted
knock,
Phillip
though?
Rivers 2.0, I think.
But wasn't that always
Yeah.
his knock? Is that he would put up numbers, but then he couldn't get it done when it counted?
That's the way.
All the way back in
in
college?
Oregon, he would just
But-
he'd make the silly
but
mistake,
there's
make
always-
the bad throw.
But there's one
That's what he
test you
was
could always
there.
do with your quarterback. Do you feel you could can you see your quarterback winning a Super Bowl? And I look at Tua, and that's all I see. Like I don't see the 60,000 yards at the end of his career and the 500 touchdowns. I don't see that. What I see is him holding a Lombardi.
But you
Because
could
that's what he does.
You could see his name going up right next to Dan Marino's in the Ring of Honor.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I
That'd be
could see him winning a championship.
We're
And
due for another.
that's the most
QB
important thing.
up there.
Mhm.
All right,
Alrighty.
man. I gotta
Yeah,
go
it's
eat
been
my
a
roast
fun
beef.
Yeah,
day.
we gotta call this. All right.
Officially
Thank
2
you.
hours.
2
Longest
hours.
show
We made
ever.
it to 2 hours. It's a milestone here for the Pulse of Fins Nation. Then 20, 30 minutes of that was just talking about KFC, flan, and black beef. Listen, man, as long as you have fun, that's all that really matters in the end, right? All right.
Yeah.
Everybody go to prizepicks.com. Use the promo code 5. They'll match up to $100 on your initial deposit. No rollover necessary. Just go over there and bet and win with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Just go pick the overs on them. I guarantee you'll be just fine. And nowadays, I honestly think that picking Tua would be a pretty good safe over as well. I should have picked him instead of Raheem Mostert. Then I would have gotten all 5. I was so upset. Oh, my God. Anyway, that's it for us here. Thank you all so much for joining us. We will see you all next week.